Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Or good day, I should say, depending on where you're at. Happy Sunday to everyone. Hope you're well. Hope you're ready for a fun flight in someplace a little bit warmer than where we're all at. Where most of us are at it, anyway. We're flying today around the Solomon Islands, an area rich with history and beauty and lots of water. So, today we're going to be starting off in Guadalcanal at an airfield formerly known as Henderson. From there, we're going to fly over a small island on our way to a much bigger island. We're going to do a little bit of exploring today. And we're going to end up at the base of a volcano. So, today's also a special occasion because we have Azimuth with us to drop some maritime history and general history of the area with us today in the stream.
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be here. Looking forward to the wonderful flight and all of the exciting history.
Here's John E. is now following on Twitch. Many thanks, my dude. So we'll say hello to the folks in chat. We have a follow from Tarso Souza. Allison Johnson says, "Hey, how you doing, Allison?" Ed Reed is here on YouTube and on Twitch. Papa Joe B is in the chat. How you doing? Kingsman's here. Hope you're doing well. Noel is here. Hey all, hello to you as well. And hello, I'm gonna mess that up a lot. Tarso Souza. Warhamster is in as well. So let's say we start getting this show on the road. Hey, Azimuth.
Yep, I agree. Sounds good.
As things are falling all over my desk, apparently. So we're flying the lovely Carenado Cessna 182 Turbo Skylane, which is just a very nice, fun airplane. A little, much like a 172, but a little faster.
Very nice. I think the Cessna 172 is the smallest airplane I've ever flown in personally.
It's a very common size airplane. 182 is probably a little roomier. Let's see. Rudiger's here. Good evening from Stuttgart. Well, good evening from Michigan. Scotland 737 project is in. Good evening to you. Go for Tarso. Got you, Tarso. I can remember that one. Jay Winokur's in the chat as well. Good evening. Or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Bad Dog is here. I am well. I hope you are too. So, we have 2 passengers in the airplane today because it's me and, Azimuth and I should say.
Oh, there you go. Well, there's a lot of passengers in the plane today. It looks like there's 15 on Twitch and another 10 on YouTube. So yeah, there's 25 people packed into this plane right now.
25 people in a 4-seat plane.
That'll be fun.
It's like a clown car.
Yeah.
Okay, we should be back. That was a momentary lapse with OBS.
My history stream. There we go.
Yeah, Allison, turning on multiplayer would help.
What is this field called again?
It used to be known as Henderson.
Right, I know that.
The current name is Honiara International Airport.
Huh, okay. Yeah, Henderson Field, of course, very well known to historians. A little airfield on Guadalcanal that the Japanese hated. God, they hated this airfield. They would spend every night sneaking up with destroyers and lobbing shells at it because they hated it so much.
They were very angry at the island.
Yes, yeah, they didn't like it at all. Yeah, there was quite an extensive campaign, and the Eastern Solomons campaign, I mean, it's one of the quintessential battles of World War II. And, you know, this and Midway were kind of the defining points of the Battle of the Pacific. The Allies desperately wanted to keep Guadalcanal. The Japanese desperately didn't want that.
It was a highly contested hotspot.
Yeah. One aviator on Henderson Field was stated that the Japanese would shell Henderson almost every night, a habit that he called a bad one that he wished they would break. Yeah, very interesting.
So we've got the engine fired up, ready to go. Cheney Train is in. Maybe add Azimuth as a broadcaster. Hi, by the way. Sudden drop in volumes.
From me?
No, I'm just reading the chat. See, howdy and evening. All hope to be flying on. Awesome, Murph. Good to see you.
Oh, good old Murph in the chat. Yeah, I've watched a few of his streams. Really enjoy him.
Yeah, he's a great presenter and does a good job with videos as well.
Gotcha. I think the engine's drowning us out.
I closed the windows so it turned it. Should have brought it down a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and let's see. Lights are on. Mixture set.
Yeah.
Gonna release the parking brake and we're gonna start heading for the active.
Yeah, Henderson, of course, around the time of Suavano Island, they had just gotten a bunch of those new TBM Avenger torpedo bombers, which were the Japanese hated those because for once American torpedo technology was seeming to work only if it was dropped out of an Avenger. So they were doing some devastating work on the Japanese shipping and all that.
Now, I believe Henderson was used primarily by the Marine.
You might be. Well, the Marines definitely took it. That's for sure, and they'll let you know that if you ever talk to them. So the Marines took it and held it, and they extensively launched aircraft out of there. They were doing patrols every single day out of the Solomons. Sometimes, you know, a dozen or so or more sorties for each aircraft.
Wayland is in the chat. We are on the U.S. East server.
But yeah, the Marines, they'll always tell you about how they took Guadalcanal, but they won't mention how the Coast Guard drove the Higgins boats that landed them in Guadalcanal.
So we got some friends sitting there at the end. We got Zostrus and Papa Joe waiting patiently at the end of the runway for our departure. Add one notch of flaps in. As we make our way down.
Yeah, and you can see just how close the airfield sits to the shore, making it a prime target for landing, but also a prime target for shelling.
Oh, absolutely. Well, as big of an island as it is, even though the vast majority of it's mountain and jungle, it's a fairly strategic spot, especially considering the island hopping that was going on just to be able to
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
have air
Yeah,
bases.
Yes, this put the Americans within striking distance of Bougainville, Rubal, which was a huge airfield for the Japanese. Just a bunch of different targets that they had planned to take in the long run. So, very important island to them, and very important island to the Japanese.
We're gonna set up our autopilot real fast as we should probably hold the brake so we don't roll forward. Don't want to inadvertently run into, a mountain.
Yeah,
or other airplanes.
That's not good for your plane's health, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
That's that. Our altimeter settings. That. Primed. Ready. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and take off. Get in the pattern. Start checking out the Solomon Islands.
Yeah.
Get a nose up, and we're off the ground like the plane wants to fly. How we like it.
Nice.
The weather is scattered clouds. The time should be right around 8 a.m. in Sim. Kingsman. Okay, there's 300 feet. Flaps go up. I'm not sure what you mean, Bad Dog. Gonna have to be a little more specific. Dial back the RPMs a tad. Dial back the manifold pressure a bit.
So off to the starboard side of the aircraft, you can also see it off the stern. That is called Iron Bottom Sound, which you can probably guess why it's called Iron Bottom Sound. There are a lot of ships sitting at the bottom of it, close to 2 dozen American and Japanese ships sitting at the bottom of that harbor right there.
The harbor really took its vitamins.
Yeah, it's got a lot of iron. It's in good shape.
Brazenhead is in the chat. Good day to you, my friend.
But you can see that sort of natural bend. That's where a lot of troops were being landed by the U.S. Navy and the United States Marines. Yeah, they were pretty much sending everything they could to hold that airfield, and the Japanese were doing everything they could to push them out. Of course, the Americans weren't just going to let them. They had quite a force of cruisers and destroyers. Where you're looking right now, it would just be, cruisers and destroyers as far as the eye could see, assisting in that landing. Off in the distance right there, you can see Savo Island, which is just a small island that's kind of makes a sort of choke point heading in from the north. And that's where the location of the first Battle of Savo Island took place. About August 8th, 1942, I think. All of this was right after Midway, which of course was a huge battle and a huge turning point in the war. The Japanese had some very costly losses. The Americans had some losses too, of course. but the Japanese lost kind of more than they really wanted to at that point. So they were kind of on the back foot and trying to get some easy victories and put some easy hurt on the United States.
And that will also be the first waypoint in our flight this evening.
Yeah. But yeah, at the bottom of this harbor, a lot of really famous ships: the USS Atlanta, the USS Astoria, the IGN Fubuki, the IGN Furutaka. A lot of very famous U.S. Navy and Japanese Navy ships were in this fleet. Oh, you got a good amount of people on here.
That's correct, Bad Dog. In the 182, it's the engage autopilot button is down here, and this is where everything's set. So the engage autopilot button it's different than the 172 G1000. So speaking of the autopilot, it seems everybody's in the air, so we're going to go ahead and engage. We're going to climb at approximately 500 feet, or excuse me, 600 feet per minute to an altitude of 3,500 feet. As Warhamster is coming up in the Mooney.
Oh, very nice.
Flying through a cloud right now.
Yeah. Oh, cloud. It's still beautiful.
No, that was just the G1000 chain of train. There's Kingsman. Jill Corky 54 is taking off. We have Alley Cat in the distance. So we're trying to limit our speed to not be going terribly fast, but enough to where people can keep up as we intercept our line. I think I will change the cloud layer just a little bit so we can, you know, be a little have a little better visibility.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Wow. Just shrink away like that.
As we make our first turn toward, what was the name? Savo
Island. That's correct. Yep.
So this was the main airport I would do free flight in Combat Flight Simulator 2. It looked a lot different.
I'm sure it was. When did that game come out?
2002, I think.
Oh yeah.
2000 or 2002. It was my high school days.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, that was a while ago.
Yeah, just 20 years or so.
Yeah. What were we on? PlayStation 2 at that point?
I think
Right
so.
on,
The N64, the GameCube was coming out soon.
Yeah. Yeah. So those graphics must have been.
Actually, for Flight Sim, it was pretty darn good.
Wow.
I mean, PC gaming was still graphically superior than.
Right.
But Combat Flight Sim 2 was awesome.
Yeah.
I always flew the Wildcat.
Of course, yeah.
Tubby little fighter plane.
Yeah.
29 cranks to get the gear up, 29 cranks to get the gear down because you had to do it manually. You didn't have an electric switch.
Yeah.
So if your right arm looked real beefy and you were a Wildcat pilot, it's because of the landing gear.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Evening, Red Dragon. Hope you're well.
It's interesting how just around World War II, everything was like, it was such a wide mix between new advanced technology and just old analog stuff. Famously, the Americans used radar during this battle to some very early success. Some very good surface scan radar to detect Japanese patrols and all that. One of the patrols very famously was coming down the channel to the north in the middle of the night, and a group of American cruisers spotted this group of Japanese cruisers. And the Japanese admiral aboard the AGGH-AGGF thought for sure these were other Japanese ships, and was so confused that as the opening salvo of 6-inch shells was hitting his ship, he was signaling, "I am AGGH."
I am AGGH.
Yeah, so he was giving his ID to them as they were opening up with 6-inch shells. So all of that was possible because of very early American radar.
Well, and going back to the technological advancements that happened throughout the war, early in the war, the catapult for aircraft carriers didn't exist, and by the end of it,
yeah.
it was being used. I think it had to have been started use in at least late 44, going into 45.
Right. Yeah, so taking off from aircraft carriers was a completely different deal back then.
Right, you had to have all the airplanes at the back, and the first ones to go had very little runway to work with.
That's correct, yeah.
And the aircraft carriers were just a straight line, as opposed to nowadays with at least American carriers, where you have the main two catapults on the front, and the landing path is angled off of it, so you can do a lot more simultaneously.
Right. Yeah, I gotta believe that's a tough job being an air director on an aircraft carrier nowadays.
Oh, it's got to be mad.
Oh yeah.
Because you got to strategically place all the aircraft on the deck and know where everything is, and in almost real time.
Yeah. Like a little airport that's just bobbing up and down in the sea with a lot more planes.
Yep. And Saturday we had Thursday we had the pleasure of landing on a representation of CVN 72.
Okay.
During our stream, and we landed on that, and then used the catapult on there to take off during the stream. So that was a lot of fun.
They had a working catapult.
Yep.
Oh, that's very cool. That is very cool.
Yeah, you'll have to go back and watch it. It was a great stream. We flew jets from Marine Corps Air Station Miramar up to Naval Air Station Fallon. We flew through the Star Wars Canyon and landed on carriers.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I'll have to watch that. That sounds really cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. During this battle, of course, they had 3 carriers. They had they had Wasp, Enterprise, and not Yorktown. Hold on, forgot. But they definitely had Wasp and Enterprise. Of course, they lost Yorktown at the Battle of Midway. They lost a few others. So they were working with a very limited carrier force, and the carriers were taking a beating. Enterprise is famous for probably taking the most damage of any ship in World War II, and just keeping floating somehow. So.
Well, and with, as far as naval aviation, the Zero outmatched the Wildcat by a great deal. And the Wildcat, the Zero is much more maneuverable and faster. The only thing that the main advantages of the Wildcat over the Zero were the durability, because it had better armor, it had self-sealing fuel tanks, so it wouldn't just ignite when you shot the gas tank.
Right.
And the Wildcat would beat the Zero, I believe, in a dive. um, which was a tactic used.
Yeah.
But it was just, yeah. So, but but otherwise, it was the underdog, and that's one of the things I love about the Wildcat, because it was this tubby little. I mean, it was developed before the war began, so it was this tubby and comparatively underpowered aircraft compared to the Zero. But
Right.
we had better firepower, armor, and I guess safety measures for the fuel tanks.
Right.
And better, probably, especially towards the end of the war, better training.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it was the Enterprise, the Wasp, and the Saratoga. Yeah.
That's one.
But,
I think that's an underheard of aircraft carrier, the Saratoga.
The Saratoga, yes, very famous. Not a small ship either. It wasn't like the Wasp, I believe, was an aircraft, like an escort carrier. Saratoga was another Lexington class, so she was a good size. She was originally going to be a battle cruiser, and then in the 20s they refitted her as an aircraft carrier because the Americans were smart to realize that aircraft carriers were going to be it, man. Only one battleship was actually, at least in the beginning, only one American battleship was brought to the Solomon Islands, and that was the North Carolina. Of course, you know, before this they had lost a great deal of battleships in Pearl. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So to the starboard side, there's of course Little Savo Island. The first Battle of Savo Island was very much in the Japanese's mentality called the Kantai Kessen, which my Japanese is terrible, but it basically means decisive battle or decisive victory doctrine, that sort of thing. Very early on, they were like, okay, we're becoming a big world power. We need to figure out how we're going to beat other world powers like the Americans, because they didn't have as many ships as us, obviously. So, seeing that the Americans were landing and reinforcing Guadalcanal, they wanted to think of a way to kind of put a thorn in their side without doing a, drag out, dukes out sort of frontline battle. And a lot of that involved just coming in at night, using their small cruisers and destroyers to kind of fit through American destroyer screens. This whole area that you're looking at would have been filled with American cruisers and destroyers. And then there was 2 picket destroyers just on the other side of the island with surface scan radar. The Japanese managed to evade both of those destroyers and evade their radar, which was very limited at the time. And they slipped right around the island, right between Guadalcanal and Savo right here, and came within about 4,000 yards before they started opening fire on American cruisers and American destroyers. Thankfully, not getting close enough to be able to hit the landing craft and the other landing ships, but still, I believe they took out about 2 cruisers and 2 destroyers, and it was a massive hit to us, especially to morale. The Americans honestly weren't expecting the Japanese at that time. They kind of went, hey, we're going to bed, the Japanese will probably go to bed. So a lot of them were not at battle stations and not ready for that first attack. And it dealt a really a heavy blow, especially to morale and all that. But the Americans lost 3 heavy cruisers. The Australians lost a heavy cruiser, and they lost 2 destroyers to that first battle. One of the captains aboard the picket destroyer was kind of known as a sort of a hard ass, and he instructed the crew not to run the radar needlessly because he thought it was worthless. He thought it was a worthless piece of technology, not really worth the time. He later on found out that the Japanese fleet came within about 1,500 yards of his ship as it passed astern of him. It's pretty crazy. That first battle was not the shining point in the Japanese or in the Americans' naval career. You can see this island chain sort of at the northeastern tip of the island, just off the stern of the vessel. That was a famous landing point for the Japanese. The Japanese were slipping in at night and dropping transport ships right there, so the Japanese could stage attacks against Henderson Field. So. Very interesting. Just north of Suavano Island, there was a whole, 1,500 yards in meters. Roughly the same. They're almost the same exact measurements. 1,500 yards is roughly 1,500 meters. Let me get you the exact measurement.
Yeah, it's fairly close between yards and meters.
Yeah.
The further out you go, the more drastic the difference is.
Yeah, 1,500 yards is 1,371 meters. So about the same thing. 1,300 meters, 1,500 yards. Sorry, on my YouTube channel I do the conversions because I realize not everyone is American and uses our silly counting system. So, yeah, I use nautical miles and fathoms, so.
Well, and
you think imperial's confusing.
Well, and then that's a nice translation between maritime stuff and aviation. It's the nautical mile, and that's what we both use.
Right. Nautical miles is just useful if you know how to read a chart.
Right.
A line of latitude is a nautical mile. You know?
Now here's a question for you, because I've thought about asking my dad, I just never got around to it. What's the difference between a map and a chart?
From what I understand, what I've been drilled into my head, a map is for land, a chart is for water.
Or apparently air as well.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But, as somebody said, point blank range for ships, absolutely, yeah. 1,500 yards, you're not adjusting for elevation at all. You're just firing at the target. So, the second battle of Suavano Island involved two South Dakota class battleships against the IGN battleship Hiroshima, and that one's very famous for how point blank that firing became. This was also at night. The Japanese loved attacking at night. The Hiroshima and its support craft ambushed the USS South Dakota, but they didn't know that the USS Washington was working in tandem with her. So they came within probably about 7,000 yards of South Dakota and were absolutely hammering her. The floodlights on the Hiroshima were illuminating her for the gunners and just wreaking havoc, lighting fires on the South Dakota. The Washington, seeing this, snuck up behind the Hiroshima within 4,000, 5,000 yards and unloaded on her at point-blank range with 16-inch guns and made Swiss cheese out of her. This was the last time that a U.S. Navy battleship would destroy an IGN battleship with gunfire. And it was absolutely devastating. The ship sank within minutes after getting shelled by these massive 16-inch shells.
Those things are not to be trifled with.
Oh, absolutely not. No, a 16-inch shell is very devastating.
I mean, it's getting hit with something that's 16 inches in diameter. I mean, that's the better part of the human torso.
Yes, and you're talking about shells that were a ton or two in weight, you know.
Oh yeah. So we're coming up on the Russell Island.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be our first turn across what you told me was referred to as the slot.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, in between kind of that set of islands and another set of the islands to sort of the northeast. That's what the Americans called the slot. and basically the Japanese would travel down this sort of natural channel in the middle of the night to drop troops on the northern shore of Guadalcanal, or heavy equipment, whatever they could, because it gave a kind of natural protection and all that. But they would have to do this fast because if they came in too early, they would get spotted by aircraft or ships or whatever. And if they left too late in the morning, the Avengers and the dive bombers coming out of Henderson would spot them as they left and just would basically bug them the rest of their way back to Rabaul and cause a lot of damage. So.
Yeah, and the dive bombers, at least a year or so into the conflict, were the SBD Dauntlesses built by Douglas. Mm-hmm. And that was the most previous dive bomber was the Curtis Helldie. No, I think it's the Curtis Helldie, or I could be mistaken. No, it's the TVD Devastator. Excuse me. And nobody liked to fly it. It was not a very good aircraft. And then the Dauntless came along, and it was pretty much America's naval or premier naval and marine dive bomber. Mm-hmm. Until the and then with the Grumman Avenger torpedo bomber, and I think the Curtis Helldiver was in there somewhere, but that was not. It was another unpopular aircraft.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, the Avenger, one of the very rare examples early war of an American torpedo system that actually worked. A lot of her destroyer-based or cruiser-based torpedoes were mainly very ineffective. They had a lot of problems with launching them, and then they would run into boats and then do nothing. Very famously, I believe it was the Astoria's torpedo launcher actually jammed and was struck by Japanese shells, and the torpedo was launched into the funnel of the ship, and thankfully the timer ran down and it didn't explode. Thankfully, that was the one opportunity that American torpedoes not working actually helped the ship. But it was a major issue. Of course, the Japanese had their long lance torpedoes, which were horrifically effective. They were extremely effective, and a big nightmare for the American Navy. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. I guess I can plug myself right now.
Yeah, go for it.
I started a new YouTube channel called Maritime Horrors, and it's basically just maritime history and famous disasters and things that befell mariners at sea. Here.
You just released your first video today on, was it the Princess?
Yeah, it's about the SS Princess Sophia, and which was a ferry ship that was transporting troops and other people along the Canadian Inside Passage on the west coast of Canada, and sank with all hands. 352 people sank with it, but it's really not that well known. And that's kind of what I want to cover, is basically sort of lesser known maritime disasters, or I'll probably do some famous ones. I want to cover the KMS Bismarck. Everybody knows the Bismarck, the big German battleship. I have a whole list of different subjects I'm going to cover. The next one I'm talking about is going to be the Coast Guard cutter Blackthorn, which of course sank in 1980 off the coast of Florida, was rammed by a tanker and lost 23 of its 48 hands. So it's just famous maritime disasters, pretty much. So lots of useful history and all that. I probably people have asked if I'm going to do like ghost ships or whatever, and I probably won't, because I don't know. All of those things. It's always like one person saw this and he said this, and somebody else saw this, and it's like
a lot of hearsay.
Okay, yeah, a lot of hearsay. It's like if it's not in a ship's log or it's not corroborated by anybody, I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah,
because I want to be truthful and all that.
I'm definitely excited for your coverage of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yes, that's definitely one I want to do. If you're from the Midwest, you know about the Edmund Fitzgerald. Like, it's a very famous one. Kind of a regional fame thing, as well as the Princess Sophia. If you're not from kind of the Alaska area or British Columbia, probably don't know about the Princess Sophia. Edmund Fitzgerald, of course. Somebody made a song about that. Who wrote that song?
Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot, exactly. So yeah, if you're not really from the Midwest area, you probably haven't heard of the Edmund Fitzgerald, but that's another one that I've got some requests for.
Well, and you haven't been stationed with the Coast Guard in the Midwest. There's no doubt that you kind of learned about it just by default.
Absolutely, yeah. So I have peppered in some famous Coast Guard disasters just because I'm biased. So that's obviously where the Blackthorn comes from. But Blackthorn is another one that, unless you're in the Coast Guard, you probably haven't heard of. But that one, whenever you're a little baby boy or girl coastie going through basic training, sitting on your Papa company commander's knee, he tells you the story of the Coast Guard carrier Blackthorn. Ooh, what is that wonderful aircraft off your port quarter?
The one that says Two-Tone Murphy over it?
Yes.
That is a generic plane.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Default plane?
There's another one there's a Mooney M20 Bravo. One flew off, was a Beechcraft GE58. Aaron. It's the twin engine. Let's see if I can do some more plane spotting, see what everyone's in. Not sure what Murph is supposed to be flying, but it's just it loaded in a generic mode for me.
Oh, gotcha.
It happens. That's flight sim things.
Yeah.
Here's John E. is in a Mooney. The name tags, I got them on the Two-Tone Murphy Discord, or is directed to them from Tortuga Gaming. They work in conjunction with the ones by the UI by Mug, or UI mod by Mugs. Words are hard. I cannot recall for the life of me what they're called. Allison's in the 182. Warhamster has his cloaking device on in the Mooney.
Is that standard?
No, I'm pretty sure he had to make a deal with the Romulans.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But Mooney's kind of a sports car, tight fit kind of airplane. Four seats, retractable gear. It uses the same airfoil shape as the P-51 Mustang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the CPPR nameplates. I like the looks of these so much better than the Mugs tiny plates and the default flight sim nameplates. And it's especially cool when you're flying in a fighter jet because it works so well. And it's better for flying at night.
You, of course, can see us. I'm on the right there. You know that.
Yeah. I'm the bigger, older dude.
There's got to be a way where you can do like a 3D scan of your head and put yourself in the aircraft.
I have no doubt.
The one on the right kind of looks like me. I'm not going to lie.
There's a good look at the Mooney coming up. Actually, this would be a good opportunity to take out the old droney cam.
Oh yeah.
Assuming I can find myself. Hey there, Aaron. Papa Joe B is up ahead. So we'll get on here, have a...
I have seen the face scan stuff in sports games like the NBA 2K games, and it's, oh man, I don't know.
They did that with the Rainbow Six games in the early 2000s.
That's gotta look so great.
So there's the mooning,
Okay.
and one of the most notable features is the backwards looking tail.
Yeah, that's
Because
interesting.
you'll notice that it's very straight up and down in the front and slanted in the back, which
Yeah.
is atypical.
Yeah.
Then Murphy's, and this is the generic single engine prop plane.
Yeah. Just plain.
It fits the bill.
Yeah.
And he is in VR, I'm guessing, so
Okay. So we probably can't talk too much.
yeah. There's another Mooney with Wayland. The different paint job.
Very nice.
And there, of course, there's us in the 182.
And they said they were in a 172, struggling behind.
That's no worry, Wisdom will not leave you behind. This is the Baron, the Beechcraft Baron.
The twin prop.
Yep.
Very nice. Lovely little aircraft.
There's another generic single engine. So yeah, had a nice mix of aircraft flying with us today
Very nice.
over
That's good.
Les Solomon Islands.
There you go. Yeah,
So we're flying over the slot now.
that's correct. Yep. So the Japanese would sort of go up and down here, dropping off troops when they can, shelling the Henderson Field when they can. Once through the second battle of Savo Island, the Americans went out sort of looking for a fight because they weren't too happy with what the Japanese did during the first battle of Savo Island. They had their destroyers equipped with radar again, and they had two heavy cruisers equipped with radar. The Japanese were coming down with a seaplane tender, which they had hoped to be able to direct fire and use a special sort of shell that they only used for limited engagements, and it was an airburst sort of incendiary shell.
Ooh, that sounds nasty.
Yeah, they were going to try to take out Henderson's planes because shelling it wasn't working. They would put holes in the airfield, and then the Americans would fill them up 10 minutes later. So it wasn't doing that much. So they were trying to get rid of the aircraft by using these sort of bursting, burning shells, which were very effective against aircraft if they could hit them, i.e. when they're sitting on the deck. So the Japanese were coming down the slot. They were intent on escorting a group of transport ships and also shelling the airfield. The Americans found them almost by accident. The admiral aboard the fleet had thought that they were American destroyers when they were spotted on radar. But he had given the order to all of his ships to fire at will. So the, I believe it was the Boise, spotted them first and sent a message to the admiral, do we go along with orders as given? And the admiral said, well, yeah, of course. He didn't realize that he was saying, hey, can I fire on this Japanese ship? And he was like, so he sends the message back, Roger. And of course, the Boise opens up in kind, firing 6-inch shells at this fleet. Two other ships had also seen the Navy or the Japanese vessels and also fired at will, leaving the admiral quite confused as his own ship also started firing. They opened up on the Aoba and just devastated the ship, lighting it on fire. The admiral yelled a ceasefire, saying, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" and then quickly realized, oh, those are Japanese ships.
Keep going.
This was, of course, the admiral on the Ioba was just as confused as he was just frantically signaling at the American cruisers, "I am Ioba," which was very nice of him. They already knew that. So that engagement was very, very close ranges. We're talking maybe 3,000, 4,000 meters, and they were firing directly at each other. The Japanese lost, I believe, 3 heavy cruisers, or 3 cruisers in that engagement, and the Americans had a cruiser lightly damaged and lost one of their destroyers. But that was a definitive victory for the Americans on that one. The Japanese had greatly underestimated their ability to kind of adapt to fighting at night, and didn't expect them to come out looking for a fight in the middle of the night. That was kind of their tactic used against them.
So what that was basically a happy little accident for the Americans.
Pretty much, yeah. The Americans were out looking for a fight, and they just happened to find it before the Japanese could identify them. The Japanese admiral aboard the Ioba had thought that the contacts that his crewmen had seen were the transport ships that they were transporting, and that's why he was signaling to them, "Hey, this is who I am. Don't fire at me."
But instead, he told the American.
Oh yeah.
Whoopsie.
So, yeah, big whoopsie for them. So, yeah.
Well, and radar was still in its pretty early stages of development back in those days. It was not what we know it as today by any stretch.
Oh yeah. You could, if you were 2,000 yards off of an island, you were essentially invisible, because the radar would pick up the island, and that's about it. It would not detect you. So there was a lot of ways to sort of fudge radar in front and behind, directly in front and directly behind a ship was almost invisible. The radar couldn't pick up that. It had a lot of problems if there was thick, even nowadays, if there's very thick cloud layers, marine radar detects that as a contact. I was aboard on our cutter, and our OOD was very concerned about a very large contact in the water, maybe 5 miles away from us, which is very much in visual range at night. As we got closer, it was a very dense flock of seagulls.
Those are some dense seagulls.
Yes. Yeah, you get enough of them together, and apparently they make a radar contact. So radar, especially in the northern side, is a little finicky. It's very useful directing shells, though. Shell direction radar was pretty useful back in the day, and helped early ships kind of get that ranging, which could, honestly, in earlier battles, could take several minutes and several salvos before you finally find that distance.
Real quick, we've made a heading adjustment to 030 degrees because we have some mountains to avoid, but turning this way will also give us a better approach to our first stop at Maringe. Maringe. Yeah. I'm butchering it for sure, but...
that's all right. I would too. But yeah. The fire direction radar, very famously used by the KMS Bismarck for one salvo. The Bismarck had fire direction radar and opened up on the HMS Hood, and in the first salvo damaged the radar. So it was very very finicky and very fragile back then.
Warhamster says the SS Laurentic sank near where he's from by U-99.
Yeah, the U-99 was I believe. Actually, I gotta check. I believe that's a Kriegsmarine submarine. I have to check that.
U-boat.
U-boat, yes. Of course, the Japanese and the German U-boats were very effective. They did a lot of damage.
And he says that's off the north coast of Ireland, which is by Donegal.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, the U-99 was 219-foot V-2B U-boat that itself sank on the 17th of March in 1941 near Iceland.
And that'll be fun to start going along the Atlantic coast for both Europe and for the U.S. to start talking about U-boat stories and and that sort of thing. Because I mean, U-boats were actually seen off, if I recall correctly, U-boats were seen off the coast of the U.S. from time to time.
Oh yes, it was actually the government kept secret just how many U-boats were off the Atlantic coast. If you were to dive Cape Hatteras or anywhere along the Atlantic coast of the United States, you'll find sunk merchant ships. The Germans were just outside the United States coast, and the average citizen wasn't really told this because it would kind of cause a panic.
Panics are bad.
Yeah. So they didn't want their fishing fleet being too terrified to go out fishing, thinking they're going to get shot by a German U-boat, and they didn't really want the merchant marine worried too much. But there was the Coast Guard cutter Escanaba was sank just northwest of Maine by they think a German U-boat, but nowadays, looking back, they believe it was just a stray mine.
That's another Coast Guard boat named after something in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Watch Das Boot, impressive miniseries. Yes, very good miniseries. Das Boot is wonderful.
The boot.
Yes, German for the boot.
And I'm well aware that it means the boat.
Yeah, I know. Yes, Das Boot. I believe that's German. For the boot.
I took two semesters of German class in high school, which was almost 20 years ago.
It's just Germany's version of The Apprentice. So when they fire somebody new, they go, "You have Das Boot."
Oh, we kid, but
yeah, exactly, yeah. No, Das Boot is very good.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that also a movie at one point, or was that a different?
Yeah.
Or was?
I want to say that was a movie like back in the 60s, 70s.
I swear it was more recent than that, like early 2000s or late 90s. Unless I'm thinking of something completely different, like U-571 or something.
Oh yeah, 1981, Das Boot.
Huh.
Yeah. Apparently, it's got a good score on Rotten Tomatoes. I might have to check that out. But yeah, I haven't seen. I kind of want to see the new one with Tom Hanks.
Greyhound.
Yeah. I kind of want to check that one out because I saw a lot of reviews on it, and they said if you don't know anything about naval history, it's all just gibberish.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, which I do know about naval history, so I might have to check that out.
Well, Warhamster is speaking highly of the Das Boot series. Tutor Murphy says, good buddy of mine is in Irish Naval Service, has so many stories. We spend a fair bit of summertime on his dad's boat on the River Shannon, all inland boating, but the lakes are sweet in parts, massive. Nice. Yeah, flying around Ireland's been great because it's so similar to Michigan, quite honestly.
Oh yeah, I bet. Michigan's a lot of bogs and a lot of rain, so yeah, that makes sense.
And the bogs are definitely more up north because it's almost tundra. What's the biome name for it? Well, not so much grassland. It's taiga, kind of a taiga biome-ish.
Yeah.
A lot of scrub, small skinny trees, a lot of pine trees. Pine trees are everywhere. Once you start getting into the northern lower peninsula and the upper peninsula as a whole.
Yeah. I do plan, once the world gets back to normal, on visiting the UP, because the farthest north I've been is Saginaw. And I was not impressed with Saginaw.
There's nothing impressive about Saginaw.
Absolutely not.
From a Michigan native. No, and we're gonna, because you need to see the icebreaker Mackinac and the bridge and all that, and the Sioux Locks. Wisdom says there's a great World War II documentary by Tom Hanks called Beyond All Bounds. I think you can only see it at the World War II Museum in New Orleans.
Oh, really?
That sounds great.
Okay. That does sound cool.
That sounds like a road trip.
I would love to go to New Orleans. There's a lot of cool history in New Orleans. God, what was I can't remember. We were going to go to New Orleans for something. We were going to do a lot of things this year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. This year we were actually, our friends and I were planning on taking a cruise just down to like the Caribbean and all that. Of course, that didn't happen.
The world kind of said no.
Yeah.
So we're playing around with the heading bug just to kind of skirt around these mountains, and so we don't have to go into the clouds.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah, hello. It's got a face full of airplane.
Oh, hello.
As the fireflies scramble to make the turn. I did make it suddenly. I apologize.
What are you doing?
It's good to keep the fireflies on their toes from time to time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to get you on and do some flying around the British Isles and Ireland, Scotland, and all there, because there's a lot of naval. I mean, at one point in time, Britain and the UK had the largest navy in the world.
Oh yeah, exactly. So you think there's a lot of ships sunk around here? Oh boy, let's talk about the English Channel. So yeah, this would be Iron Bottom Sound. That would just be Iron Bottom Channel. Yeah, that would be awesome. Eventually, I may figure out how to fly. I'm working on building a new computer, so I might join you on this. It won't be pretty though. I'll be the one that's upside down on every landing. Is that door open on that aircraft?
It's a visual glitch, and
okay.
It just to be fair with John E. I wasn't expecting him to fly over. I legitimately and literally ducked in my seat where I sit, like, oh boy, that flew over my head.
Yeah. I guess it's a bit immersive, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah. I can't imagine what Murph's going through in VR.
Oh,
I'd be horrified.
Think of that. Once you watch my videos on the Star Wars Canyon, and he's done that in VR, and my mind's blown of what that's got to be like.
Oh yeah, it's got to be really cool if you like flying.
And mildly terrifying, even if you do like flying.
Yeah. As my old chief petty officer used to tell me, there's more planes in the sea than there are boats in the sky, and that's kind of why I stick to boats.
Well, I mean, boats aren't known to float up.
No. But I've gotten one in the air once or twice. Don't tell my old OIC.
Well, one of these
25, they get cooking, man.
Well, they can't get you for it now anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out.
Draco X says, as a Michigander with a retired father living in Traverse City, he would take his plane and fly around Lake Michigan, spotting shipwrecks from there. That's awesome.
Very cool.
Well, and Lake Michigan has a number of shipwrecks in and of its own right, especially taking into account they used it for aircraft carrier training during World War II, since Great Lakes Naval Station's right there, and that's their boot camp, basically.
Yeah. There was a very small aircraft carrier that they used on the Great Lakes.
Well, and it was the USS Wolverine, and it was a converted like passenger liner basically. Some sort of
no guns or anything on it. It was strictly just for landing on it.
Yeah, it didn't have a tower, a aircraft carrier tower on it or anything. It was just a flat top.
Yeah.
Murph says we have a fantastic ship in New Ross, Wexford, called the Dunbrody, a famine ship. The original back live now. So, apologies, folks. Minor technical issues once more.
Is it okay? Are we okay? We're live? Okay.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, cool.
I'm just relaunching. So, this technical break brought to you by Maritime Horror's YouTube channel.
Hey!
With their first video out now.
Yeah, so if you get the chance and you like the maritime history that you're hearing and you like my sultry, dulcet voice, go check out my YouTube channel, Maritime Horrors. I'm going to try for a video a week, just talking about different famous maritime or lesser-known maritime disasters. So if you don't like hearing about people in very unfortunate situations, maybe avoid it. But if you find that interesting, go ahead and check it out. But yeah.
I wonder if it sounds almost like a server glitch because Tarso said, interesting, all planes went missing along with me. So, although I hear otherwise, I think I'm the only one that had a sim crash. So it may be server related. I did put a link to Azimuth's Twitch channel, as you occasionally do some playing of World of Warships and such. You there, Azimuth? You there?
My microphone muted itself. All right, yeah. Sorry.
I'm like, where'd you go?
Yeah, I put my my YouTube channel in the comments on YouTube. Yes. But yeah, check that out. You can check out my Twitch. I'll be doing more gaming pretty soon.
Wayland asked you a question.
What's that? Will you be covering all eras or only modern disasters? I will. The Princess Sophia takes place in 1918. The next one I have is in 1980. The farthest back I have is actually 1630, which is the Swedish galleon or man of war, the Vasa, which famously sank 1,200 yards outside of her launch. So,
far at all.
Yeah. No, not very far at all. It was a major disaster. But yeah, I'll be covering pretty much as far back as there's, reliable information. So.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You get too far back and the records aren't quite as well kept as they are nowadays.
Yeah. Allison said she's seen the Vasa. That's actually, it's very cool. They found it probably 60 years ago, and it was surprisingly well preserved. They made a museum out of her in Stockholm, and it's the most visited museum in all the Netherlands. And it's amazingly well preserved. They've learned so much just on 1600 Swedish culture, just by looking at what was left in the ship.
You said it was in Stockholm, and then it's the most visited in all the Netherlands?
Yes, I believe so.
But Stockholm's in Sweden.
Or what's that whole region called? Not the Netherlands. I'm blanking right now. Sorry.
It's like I was like, wait a minute, Sweden and Netherlands.
Yeah.
Scandinavia.
Scandinavia. There we go. Sorry, not the Netherlands. Yeah, she's in Sweden. But she's one of the most popular museums in the Netherlands. Or God, I keep saying the Netherlands. In Scandinavia. There we go.
All right, so I'm setting up. So if you've got something to say about the island while I set up the flight.
It's very nice.
very, very green, and it has lots of mountains.
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
It's a lovely island. Looks very polite. So
we're taking off from AGGF.
Happy there are no people around. Yeah, I'm sorry to all of the Dutch listeners. I'm a silly American. We get lost very easily. If it's anywhere farther than like 20 miles from our house, we get lost. So
sure.
Yeah, that's it's very cool. It's really awesome just how well preserved and everything it is. So
all right, looking over.
no, it's all good. Beautiful Kukudu Airport.
Makes me think of what's that really ugly looking bird?
Oh, I don't. What do you mean?
Potu.
The Potu, yeah. Oh, now you're going to talk about my other passion, birds.
Well, I mean, birds and aviation. It's related.
Yeah, they go hand in hand, yeah. Aviation, of course, is just the birds of the human world.
Well, and air aviation tries to avoid birds.
Yeah, that's true.
It makes for a bad day usually.
Yeah, I had a friend that he was a falconer, and he would get hired by airports to scare off birds to make sure they didn't, get sucked into airplanes. Kind of a cool job. I would kill for a job like that.
So we're loading back up. I'm just going to load in at the new airport, or the current destination, so I can catch landings. And of course it spawned me on runway, so we're going to... Oh dear. Whoa. Where are we going? Woods. There we are.
You've become a tank.
As USA PR1 has just subscribed on Twitch, many thanks, my dude. It's greatly appreciated. Alright, so Alley Cats is in the 182.
I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Roger that. Fly Darren has just followed the channel on Twitch. Many thanks, my friend. So it is kind of a hole-in-the-wall kind of airport grass strip thing. Calling it an airport is maybe a little bit of a stretch. But we'll get set up for him regardless, as there's Chill Corky. And Red Dragon's in. Mind the soft field. There's Ostrus in the 172. And we're almost there. We do much appreciate Azimuth taking the time to be on the channel and sharing the knowledge that he has. Be sure to check out his channels. His links should be in the YouTube description, as well as he's put it in the chat a couple of times. Great guy, good presenter. really knows his stuff. Look forward to his future videos. I watched the premiere of his first video today, and as Papa Joe B and Warhamster in the Moonies. Fly daring is flying overhead. All right, USA Azimuth gifted a tier 1 to USA PR1. Many thanks, friend. As Tarso is in. A little bit of a bounce, but that's okay, and probably just server lag. There's John E and Biggles coming in. There's Bad Dog. A very quiet Wayland is in with the Mooney. Another 172 of Draco coming in for the landing. We got in the pattern. Got Fly Darren and USA PR1 coming in. Biggles is done for the evening. You have a good night. Thanks for flying along. Hope you had a good time. And you take care of yourself and have a good one out there. We'll see you next time. There's Fly Darren in with the Mooney. Johnny has to go. You have a great Sunday night, and we'll catch you tomorrow for a happy Monday. Ooh, we have the King Air of USA PR1. So that might be everyone. Well done, everyone, on the landings. All right, so we're going to get back into the cockpit. And we're going to make our way down to, as there's Warhamster in the Goose. We're going to make our way down to that, the takeoff the same way we landed, and proceed on course up the island to our next destination. Classic Navy paint job there on the Goose. So we'll turn around. We welcome back Azimuth.
Hello, hello. Back.
So we're going to go ahead and get airborne. Very careful. And airborne.
Not so much a runway, more of a straight bit of field that doesn't have as many trees.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yep. But hey, any port in a storm, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's smooth enough to land on.
Amen, yeah.
There's 300 feet. Flaps are coming up. Begin our flight orbit of the little island that it's on.
Oh, that's tiny, wow.
Yeah, just off the coast of the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
The main island. Let's look at that's some good scenery right there.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. This time of year is probably still nice and warm.
Oh yeah, well it's south of the equator, so their season is during the summer.
Oh yeah.
So it's real nice down there.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
We're going to get in the cockpit real quick, set up the autopilot. 45. Do altitude, set that 500 feet. Sure that we're not going to hit the mountain. That's usually a good idea. Go ahead and activate the pilot. We're going to activate the pilot. Sure, that makes sense.
Are you activated?
I am activated, and we're going to set our power for cruise since we're not that far away, and somehow it's not doing vertical. Here we go. That should solve that problem.
There we go.
So we're going to try to set cruise for right about 22 inches of manifold pressure at 2200 RPM. And we're going to readjust the clouds since it didn't remember the last time. Be just above. Kind of want to skim them a little bit. Awesome. As Warhamster has switched to the Goose.
Very nice.
Very appropriate, I must say.
Oh yeah, good choice. Very good choice. Earlier on, you mentioned how American pilots were trained better than Japanese pilots near the end of the war. And that's very true kind of across the board. The Americans had honestly a better training regimen for most of their crews and all that on ships as well. American damage control was known to be a lot more effective than Japanese damage control, seeing as everyone that reported on the ship, from captain down to the newest seaman, were taught damage control as soon as you arrived on your individual ship, and you were also taught damage control in basic training. So American damage control tended to be more effective because the Japanese had damage control men and a damage control party, and that was their only job. If you were, say, a gunner on an anti-aircraft gun, you wouldn't be taught damage control. You were just, you were put at your post, and if, say, a shell came in, a 16-inch shell came in through a damage control locker and killed all your damage control men, well, there goes that.
So they were definitely into the specialized jobs and not into the diversifying of the portfolio.
Exactly. Also, the Japanese Navy was very disciplined and very regimented. If you stepped out of line, did something you weren't supposed to, if you disobeyed orders, it was very common to have beatings on Japanese ships. So while the Americans were, it was still obviously very regimented and very, organized and everything. But if an American sailor came across a fire, in his mind he would go, well, I should probably put that out. If a Japanese sailor came across a fire, went, is this my job? Am I going to get in trouble for doing this? So
not a lot of room to think outside of the box.
Exactly. We also have to look at the culture at the time in the United States as opposed to the culture in Japan. The United States had been in its industrial revolution for 100 years by then. Your average American probably knows how to start a car, turn on a lawnmower, start a generator in the 40s. The Japanese had been in their industrial revolution for maybe 30 or 40. So they weren't as accustomed to sort of that level of industrial equipment as an American was. You could, back in the 40s, give an American a gas-powered water pump and be like, hey, it's like a lawnmower, start it. And they'll be like, okay, I can figure that out. Japanese might see this and go, okay, well, do you have instructions for this? So, it was just two different nations with two completely different ways of thinking back then. So, all in all of those minor details kind of accumulated to the Japanese losing ships that honestly probably could have been saved, and Americans keeping ships that by all rights should have sunk. The Enterprise being one of those. The Enterprise took a disgusting amount of damage. Some would say it was either the luckiest or unluckiest ship in the U.S. Navy. A ship you wouldn't want to be on, but survived somehow.
The luck of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
A tradition carried on even into science fiction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course, the Star Trek Enterprise, probably one of the most unlucky ships in, I'm sure, the Federation fleet. They always seem to stumble into something.
Sebastian is in. Good day to you. Hope you're well. So we're going to be doing a landing briefly at Suavano, Suavano, which is going to be another one of those tiny, tiny little airports.
Yeah.
My day's going good, doing well so far, Sebastian. Hope you're well. So we'll check to see our nav. We're about just shy of 50 nautical miles until we reach our next landing. Look at all the trees in the green.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Wayland Yutani says, fate protects fools, drunks, and ships named Enterprise.
I like that. I really like that. That's good.
Well, and I did a little bit of digging. The aircraft carrier that's currently functional in the sim, I'll be through a plug-in, is the Abraham Lincoln, which is still Nimitz class.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nimitz class was followed the Enterprise shortly after. I don't believe they got to see service in World War II. If they did, it was the very, very end. Because the United States got really aircraft carrier crazy and said, let's make as many of these as we possibly can.
Rad Pilot Randy has made it to the chat. Good afternoon, good evening. We're in the Solomon Islands. We just made our first landings and second departure. We're on our way to our second landings and third departure. Flying in a very pretty area of the world.
Very pretty.
And we're here with Azimuth, dropping the history.
Hello, yes, I have dropped the history.
As Ellison is back, you're going to have to pick that history back up because you can't leave a mess.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I'm sorry. I'll get a dustpan rag. Oh, it's from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I love that. Also, shout out to the Alien franchise, which is where Wayland Yutani's from.
Yep.
Great franchise. Until you get to Aliens 3.
I've seen the first two. I don't remember much of them, but I saw it when I was a kid because my mom was watching it. And it's a movie I probably shouldn't have watched at the age that I seen it at.
Probably not. I would suggest it now, now that you're older. I just love the style of it, the 1970s, yet also
the future retro.
Yeah, I love it so much. Everything's got big chunky buttons and stuff. There's
I think
screens.
Was it the Alien Isolation that actually fit the aesthetic of the original movies quite well?
I love that game so much. I'm terrified of that game, but God, I love that game so much.
Wisdom SP says one of those carriers knocked down all the light poles when they were trying to get out of Norfolk.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, probably around I think the 80s. They made a contract that whenever one of those vessels goes in and out of port, they have to have a tug do it, because a lot of cocky captains were like, I can do it, I know how to handle my own ship.
Lol.
So, yeah, and those are big ships, and a telephone pole really can't stand up against them.
Wayland says the first two are excellent, the third is okay, everything else is rubbish.
Yes, yeah, hard agree with that. If you're into scary games, Alien Isolation is awesome. I love that game so much. It's terrifying. But no, I did go on one of the Nimitz class carriers when I was in Everett, Washington. It was very cool. It was interesting because the cutter that I was on was kind of made in the same era. So all of the technology is exactly the same aboard that. It's just bigger. So just a massive ship. Those things, you could get lost in one of those easily. So.
Oh, I mean, it's a floating city.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're talking underway with a flight attachment. You're talking 5,000 people on one ship.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, not to mention all the ops that are going on board. And...
Yes. Yeah, it's always something's always happening. So.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Trying to look up Let's see, USS. Probably the most well-known name in aircraft carriers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because they even used the Enterprise for and actually NASA, when they were developing the space shuttle, they had named their test bed, their test glider. I don't think they even named it, but the fans of Star Trek petitioned NASA to name it the Enterprise, and they finally did.
Of course, yeah.
Let's see. Ships of the United States Navy named the USS Enterprise. USS Enterprise 1775, a Continental Navy sloop captured from the British, burned to prevent recapture in 1777, as Kevin has just subscribed on YouTube. Many thanks, my friend. Enterprise 1776, a Continental Navy schooner, formerly a privateer, used in Chesapeake Bay as a convoy and patrol ship until 1777. USS Enterprise 1799, a schooner that fired the first shots in the First Barbary War.
Okay.
That's a war I don't know anything about.
Yeah, that one's very interesting. Yeah, the Marines were used very heavily during the Barbary War.
I'll have to do some digging on that one.
Oh yeah, that one's cool.
USS Enterprise 1831, a schooner stationed primarily in South America to patrol and protect commerce. The USS Enterprise 1874, a steam-powered sloop of war used for surveying, patrolling, and training until 1909. USS Enterprise SP-790, a motorboat from 1917 to 1919, used in World War I as a non-commissioned section patrol craft, which I don't know what that means. USS Enterprise CV-6, an aircraft carrier 1938 to 1947 that served in World War II.
Yeah.
USS Enterprise CVN-65, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, and the newest one is the USS Enterprise CVN-80, a Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carrier under construction and scheduled to enter service by 2028.
Wow. They like those things, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the Gerald R. Ford-class carriers are even bigger than the Nimitz, and the Nimitz class is pretty dang big.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're very large.
So, dropping some ship knowledge on everyone.
Waylon Utani says, a war against North African pirates. That's why the Marines sing about the shores of Tripoli. That's correct. Yeah. Essentially, North African pirates were taking American prisoners just at will. And so America said, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And they sent the Navy and the Marines over to do some business. That's actually why on the Marine dress uniform they have the high collar, high-necked collar, and also where the term leatherneck comes from. The Marines would wear leather bands around their neck to protect against the swords of the Barbary pirates, and that just stayed. That they kept that leather there and kept the term leathernecks.
Huh. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Being from the Coast Guard, I have to fully admit the Marines have the nicest dress to wear.
You can't really deny the dress blues.
No, they're really nice. Although the Army going back to the pink and greens. Ooh,
yeah, that's a good move. That's a good move.
That's a beautiful uniform. Throwback to World War II, of course.
And it's nice to have, each branch is having their own distinct look.
Yes, yeah. The Coast Guard looks almost exactly like the Air Force's, except we have a white hat instead of a blue one.
Well, and thankfully your rank insignia is much different.
Oh, yes, yeah. But, everybody calls it the airline pilot out there. Because that's what it looks like, honestly.
Works for the Air Force, not so much for the Coast Guard.
Yeah. They actually sold the American sailors as slaves. So, it was a really bad situation that the United States was like, yeah, we're not going to have this anymore.
Yeah, slave trading was taking place, and America said no.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
As we still have some fireflies flying with us.
Very nice.
I just love the metallic blue on this livery.
I love with any of Scream that I watch from any of the Microsoft Flight Sim streamers. There's always just a cloud of aircraft behind them.
Well, and that's some of the funnest part about this, because before the multiplayer wasn't quite as polished as it is now.
Right.
Not to say that it, you know, doesn't need a tweak here and there, but to have these large group flights, it's amazing, quite honestly, from the perspective of a streamer and just as a sim pilot. It's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, the fact that, you know, it runs so well and you can have people flying formations, you know, while they're on the other side of the planet.
Yeah. And it's just like, you know, having the wonderful community that is the Two-Tone Murphy Flying Circus.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we've got people from Germany, from people in the Netherlands, I mean, all over Europe, you know, mainly, you know, especially in the UK and Ireland, and then there's a bunch of us from here in the States, and it's just awesome.
Yeah. Us silly Americans getting location names wrong. Location names wrong.
That's kind of a trade blows kind of thing, because Murphy will do some trips in Ireland and point out this and that, and put text of some, you know, see text of this location, and he'll pronounce it off, you know, like it's nothing, and I'm looking at it going, I'm not even going to try to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, you know, I'm flying around in northern Michigan, and there's a bunch of Native American and French kind of mixed in there, and then the tables turn, and I get to pronounce them good for once.
Yeah. Boy, when I heard how Sault Ste. Marie was pronounced.
Oh, that one's always fun.
I was very confused.
And Murph says, doesn't really matter on the location. I butcher them all.
You just need to know New York and Los Angeles. And other than that, that's the two locations in the United States.
Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, Chicago if you want to get spicy. But those are the two cities in the United States.
But yeah, I mean, we've done bush trips in Canada. I flew caravans in Alaska. We're flying in the Solomon Island. It's just with everybody locked in one way or another, not being able to travel like we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
Flight Sim has been a huge release.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, there's plenty of places I'd love to go, but cannot because of, you know, everything.
And this Flight Sim's been a great escape from all the current unpleasantness that is the world at the moment. And we just look at the flying, but we're learning some history, and that's a wonderful thing.
Oh yeah.
I really think that the release of Flight Sim happened at the right time. It was kind of a perfect storm. Mm-hmm. And everybody has can't go anywhere, but in Flight Sim you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a few games it's been like that. Somebody was saying that what was that cute little game that came out? Animal Crossing did incredibly well.
Oh yeah.
Because of coronavirus.
Yeah. And it's but it's been great, and getting to know people from around the world and being a part of community is just awesome. And now getting one of my closest friends on and sharing some history, and I'm learning things. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's tons of fun. Yeah. And I love talking about history. I talk about medieval history until I'm blue in the face.
I mean, we could paint your face blue.
No, that's all right. It'd be too close to the Navy.
Well, hello, Baron.
Very close.
Danger close.
Oh my goodness.
If that were Murph, I would say he's being very dangerous.
Yeah. I just want to say hi.
I have yet to actually watch the copy of Top Gun that I got earlier this week.
Oh.
I watched all the bonus features and saw all the how they made it stuff. And did I watch the movie yet? Nope.
We'll have a watch party. We'll watch it on Twitch. That wouldn't be allowed.
Actually, it might, depending on if it's on Prime Video or not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But the only downside to that is the viewers would have to be a Twitch Prime or a Prime member. So.
Gotcha.
Murphy says, "Adjust aviators, dangerous." Your ego's writing checks that your body can't cash.
Yeah. Murph occasionally has the face cam, and I really want him to have a.
It's for dramatic effect.
Yeah, I really want him to have a set of aviators and maybe a flight helmet.
I think he's working on the aviator part. I'm working on looking at getting a whole flight suit with patches and everything. Because I've got the aviators and I've got the mustache. I just need the flight suit.
Yeah. Get a little Michigan Misfits patch on the shoulder.
I could get 3 different ones. The Channel, Two-Tone Murphy one, you name it. So we're getting close. We're about just shy of 15 nautical miles from the destination, which is on this little piece of land here.
If you squint real hard, you can see it. Don't forget the flight scarf and the air fan to blow it.
I've got the scarf. I have the goggles. I have the leather cap. So once the Waco is out and I can get it and fly it around, you bet that I'm going to be flying it, because the Waco, you probably don't know it, Azimuth. The Waco is a biplane.
Oh.
So it's a classic biplane with an open cockpit and everything. So leather cap and the goggles and the scarf. Gonna happen.
You can go torpedo the Bismarck with that. Yeah. What was I watching? What's the AN-2 is I believe a Russian biplane.
Yep.
I think the Antonov. Very recently, there was video released of the North Korean Air Force using one with rocket pods under the wings.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And the AN-2 is one of Warhamster's favorites.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. I think they would use them for very poor paradrops and very poor as CAS.
I think they definitely use it for bush flying, even in the civilian world. Because it's kind of one of those planes that just does so well in the wilderness.
Yes.
With short takeoff and landing ability and all that jazz. Wayland says, same here, looking forward to the Waco. Yeah. Stall speed of something like 42 knots. Yeah, that's 172 stall speeds. I can't wait for the F-15 that's going to come out soon. There's a T-45 coming out somewhat soon. A lot of good stuff coming out for flight sim.
One of my favorite Soviet aircraft is the Tupolev 3, the TB3, an open-topped Russian medium heavy bomber kind of thing. But yeah, it had an open cockpit, and it was a bomber. And for a bit, they tried using it as a one of their paratrooper aircraft.
Oh dear.
And they would load these paratroopers into pretty much the bomb bay, and then while flying, they would climb out on top of it, go out onto the wing, and then slide off. So
I'm trying to picture that in my head, and it's not going well.
Soviet ingenuity, gotta love it. But there are pictures of them trying this, and they'd climb out onto the wing mid-flight and just slide off the wing, and parachute that way.
I mean, in some defense of that, I guess that's similar to what some skydivers do. But that's skydivers?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Recreational shore as a military tactic? I don't know.
Yeah, that's that's what you call a head scratcher.
Yeah. TB3, very interesting design by the Soviets. And you can just imagine being up in the USSR in winter with an open cockpit flying along. That's got to be miserable.
Have your Ushanka ready.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I mean, you're sitting behind a giant fan too.
Yeah, exactly. So you got a little tiny windscreen in the Soviet winter, and then wind chill. So yeah, it's got to be miserable.
So we're descending into our next stop. See the palm tree is already spawning in. Airstrip is right there. The satellite image almost makes it look like it's paved, but it doesn't appear to be paved. Ooh, Red Dragon, first CTD in a week. Douglas in, you're not late, you arrived exactly when you needed to. Wayland says there's a documentary on Band of Brothers on YouTube that show the first Soviet paratrooper. Oh dear.
Very nice. I'll have to check that out. That actually sounds really cool.
Well, and speaking of experimental paratroopers, not that paratrooping was not experimental during World War II, the United States Marines tried doing paratroopers. It didn't work so well.
Ugh.
For some reason.
Well, if they attach crayons to the ripcords, and rip them right off, and there they go.
See, I did that kind of jump in Marine City, climbed out on the wings, strutted 172. Yeah, for that application, it seems normal and fine.
Yeah. But as a large military unit doing a synchronized jump, not so much.
I mean, keeping the paratroopers in the bomb base seems like it makes sense. It's like, okay, you're dropping troops. That's kind of like dropping bombs. That part kind of makes sense.
Yeah. You got anybody that's too scared, you can just open up the bomb bay doors.
Yeah, then you remove all the choice in the matter. Oh, there you go. Where'd he go? Where'd who go?
Safe landing, comrade. Don't forget popcorn.
But yeah, so we're making our second landing in the jungle.
As you concentrate on this, I'm gonna go get something to drink.
More coffee.
Probably water.
Oh, water's good too.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to concentrate on our landing, sterile cockpit. I see, way different than when I was jumping from C-130s. Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, I cannot see. There is... Okay, I got it. Like, as Wayland circles around, there's Commandant Muttley. We have airfield in sight. Pardon me, we're going to throw another notch of flaps down. As we're on base, go ahead and throw the last notch of flaps in. Runway as it is in sight. little low. Add a little bit more power. That just kind of looks like a field, not so much a landing place. And we're down. That was a nice and smooth landing. We'll pull off to the side here.
Excellent at landing.
As I believe that's Alley Cats in right behind. Get in the drone cam, start picking up the landings. Zostras is in next. It literally just looks like someone's backyard. There's Zostras in the Baron. I mean, it's just a space between trees.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. That's exactly what it looks like.
As Red Dragon has spawned in.
Yeah, you know, actually, I could see that field just being in Michigan.
Yeah.
The tree line right there. Yeah. That's funny.
There's Parso. Yeah, Azimuth, once you get your new computer rig up and running and you get Flight Sim, I got a spare joystick for you.
Ooh,
that'll get you up and going.
Yeah, I was going to bebop around with a mouse and keyboard, but yeah, if I get a flight stick, whew, I have to buy a hat and everything too.
There you go. Find yourself a Top Gun hat, get yourself some aviators. Grow yourself a mustache.
Is there a bottom gun that I could have? A bottom gun hat? Because I'm not quite Top Gun yet.
I'm sure that we find a hat maker and we can make it happen.
Okay. That'd be great. Yeah, bottom gun.
Side gun.
Yeah. I'll be the one every landing does it, you know, every takeoff does a tail strike, every landing I land on my propeller, you know.
Allison says had less flowers than that one in Transylvania on Halloween. Goggles and a scarf. Well, I've got the goggles and a scarf. We'll work on that for Azimuth.
Excellent. And when they come out with a Microsoft ship simulator, I'll get you in on that.
Well, quite honestly, given the development of Flight Sim, it's entirely plausible as Warhamster comes in with the Goose that people will make quote-unquote flyable ships in Flight Sim. And there's Chilled Corky. I think that, and they're all coming in. Bad Dog, Wayland's in, Commandant Muttley. I don't know if they're just going to make it scenery or not, but the same guys making the F-15 that's due out in a couple of weeks are working on the USS Kitty Hawk.
Oh, very cool.
But again, I don't know if that's scenery, if they're going to make it a ship that's actually...
That can work, yeah.
Yeah. Because people have done that in older era, like in FSX, they've actually got quote-unquote flyable ships. From aircraft carriers to small boats.
I mean, it's distinctly possible. They programmed in physics into the water. They had to if they had planes landing on it. So, yeah, so I think it's possible. It's not like the old flight simulators where you just landed on the water and it was like another runway.
Or a crash.
Yeah. So.
As Papa Joe B is in the Mooney, and Dougal is in. Is that everybody? Oh, Technical landed in the water with the Goose.
Oh, very nice.
Even though Kind of looks like he's floating. We'll believe he's in the water.
We'll pretend. We'll close our eyes and we'll pretend.
I believe. As Rad Pilot Randy is inbound. Where's he outbound?
It's very buoyant. It's a very buoyant aircraft.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's got 3 floats on there.
Yeah.
Practically hovers over the water.
The more floats, the more buoyant. That's true.
You're good, Red Dragon. No worries. Wayland says, I think I saw a mod already where you could steer a tug in New York waters. Interesting.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
So, yeah, the innovation happens if it's not straight from, Microsoft or, in this case, Asobo. The third-party market will come up with new and interesting things to throw into Flight Sim to make a new experience.
Yeah.
Because
I love waters.
Yeah, well, and even the carrier add-on from Hard Deck Simulations, that wasn't even from Microsoft or Asobo. That was a third party, and it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
The only thing in development for the carriers is the fact that right now they don't move.
Yeah.
So that'll come in time.
Oh yeah.
As Draco is coming in, as well as Rad Pilot Randy.
Like I said, right around the time they get the PvP mods going.
There's Draco in the 172. Nicely done. So, we're going to take off the opposite direction in which we landed. Let's see what we've got. We got another 182, 172. That's, of course, a Mooney. A couple of generics, a Baron. There's us in a 182, and a Mooney, and another Baron, and Alley Cats in a 182. There's Rad Pilot Randy. He's coming in. We got to catch his landing. If he's landing or just buzzing the field, and the Baron. Got his gear down. Flaps are down.
Very nice.
Nicely done.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about this iteration of Flight Sim, especially, is the accessibility. There are people that fly with mouse and keyboard, or even an Xbox controller, and it all works. And you can practically seamlessly fly with other people around the world, and it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
So we're going to line ourselves up on the old runway. I believe we have plenty of runway from here. Don't mind the C182 backing up into parking, nothing to see. So we're going to make sure it goes to full as we slowly introduce the throttle in, using our rudder pedals to keep her straight. Airspeed's coming alive. The idea is to take off before we hit the water, and we're up.
That'd be perfect.
Technical. Yep, water landing seemed the best option. It was all that took about. There you go.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
There you go.
So 300 feet, flaps are coming up.
Yeah.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. So we're going to do a right-hand circle this time, turning to starboard. See, sometimes I remember which is which.
Yeah, you're good. I got it.
I often get confused.
That's alright. Happens to the best of us. If you have to look to the front of the plane and hold both of your hands up, you'll be fine.
Well, usually I do an L to figure out, because I think I remember port as being like I was left at the port.
Yeah.
So I have an association to remember it by. Starboard, I can't associate.
Left, there's 4 letters in left, there's 4 letters in port. Starboard's the...
So I figure as long as I can remember port,
Yeah.
remembering starboard's just like it's the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly. Your port running light is always red. Your starboard running light is always green.
Yep. Port and larboard. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's for the cooking show.
Yeah. A large bird. Yeah.
So we're watching the Fireflies take off from this glorified field designated an airport.
I wonder how much flights cost in there.
Considering it would be a bush flight and you'd have to charter it, probably a lot.
Probably a lot, yeah.
Your best bet's a boat.
Probably.
And it's going to take a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but I'd love to say this.
Oh, you'd be happy as a clam.
Oh, yeah. It'd be ridiculously expensive. It'd take a long time to get there. We're talking a couple weeks,
Yeah.
depending on what you're on.
When you can go up north and get the experience of working and sleeping on a ship for, essentially pennies on the dollar.
Oh, yeah. That's why, cruise ships never made sense to me. I'm like, I gotta pay to be on a boat? They had to pay me to stay on the boat back when I was there.
Well, with the Icebreaker Mackinac Museum, they have a program where you can pay a reduced cost to stay on the boat when you work on the boat, just learn how to do knots and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which you would excel at.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
But that's something that I'd like to do as part of a group someday, and it would be a blast. Sleep.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever slept on a boat.
It's an awesome experience. It rocks you to sleep, and the ventilation sounds and all that is like white noise. Oh, I slept like a baby when I was on the boat.
Okay, so we're gonna set cruise power. Go to 22 inches of manifold. 2200 on RPM, and we're going to gauge the autopilot as we do one more circle of the field. Those are cowl flaps. And just look at how the clouds are actually casting shadow on the land. That's just cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
That's one of those visual additions that make a huge difference in the immersion.
Yeah.
Is the lighting.
Yeah, there are, screenshots of this game out there that I look at and have to do a double take because I'm not sure if they're real or not.
John E. had posted one earlier today of himself in a Route 66, because we did a Route 66 flight with Murph. It took 10 or 13 hours, and we did it all at once. And so there's a special shirt for it.
Very nice.
And he took a picture of himself with the shirt, standing in front of one of the Mooney from Flight Sim, and you had to look at it close to tell that, wait a minute.
Yeah. That's very cool.
And it's up on the Murphy, Two-Tone Murphy Discord. It's a great shot.
Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah, it blows my mind how good this looks.
Yeah. And I'm not running on the best of settings by any means. I'm pretty mid-range.
Yeah.
And for it to look this amazing at this setting, I can't wait to see what it looks like, a year, 5 years from now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The modding community is just awesome what they can do. In a year or two's time, you'll be flying your Waco, shooting at other Wacos with a 1911 pistol.
It would not surprise me because, and that's the great thing, because Flight Sim, because Microsoft stopped doing combat flight sims after Combat Flight Sim 3.
Mm-hmm.
And largely because the reception of Combat Flight Sim 3 wasn't very good because it was a very big departure from the normal formula that they had. I can never remember the name of it. Allie would know better. I can't think of it. I want to say CCP, but that's not it. But it's still with the Mugs hidden UI mod, so I can hit the backspace and still hide it. But after Combat Flight Sim 3, Microsoft didn't touch combat sims, which was unfortunate. Yeah, CPPR. And I'm using the green version 2. But it's kind of a shame because the old Combat Flight Sim games were awesome.
Yeah.
I've actually kind of thought about seeing if I can get Combat Flight Sim 2 to work on a modern machine and have a laugh with that.
That would be fun to see. Yeah. That would be very fun to see.
Yeah. So in FSX, the last official Microsoft version, they actually managed to add some sort of combat
Really?
into it. Yeah, I never got into it, but it looked, it was neat that they added that. So I have no doubt in my mind that that'll eventually come to this iteration.
Right. That's so funny.
You could have F-15s and warbirds and other modern jets and naval. You could have naval combat. You could get a battleship in with 16-inch gun, possibly.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, imagine what they have to do to get that going, like damage models and all kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
Stuff that probably isn't really in the game at all programmed.
Warhamster's in the Piaggio or Focke-Wulf P149 because he's running the cloaking device. I can see his name tag and I can see his nav light, but I can't see him. Roger that. As Wayland overflies. Yeah, Dougal, Tortuga Gaming had pointed it out to me on the Murphy Discord in the photos and videos section. Or the FS photos and videos. Because I was wondering how he changed the color. And it turns out it's just a completely different thing. But it works with the hidden UI mod, so it's fantastic. Are you running multiplayer generic models? Because I'm not running them right now. At least forced. We can get you the link, Google. Unless you beat me to it.
Okay.
What's up?
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of people following us.
Oh yeah. And Murph's gotten to the point where he has anywhere from 50 to 70 planes following him at any given time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've sat in on a few of those, and yeah, he's got a whole cloud following him.
Yeah. It's a swarm.
Yeah.
So we're on our way to Kaghau. It's Kilo Alpha Golf Hotel Alpha uniform.
Okay.
And we're going to... someone's in an MB339. There's Warhamster. We're in the jet. We're going to use that as a waypoint and turn to our final destination on Kukudu. That's a phrase.
Kukudu.
Yeah. And we'll probably do a lap of the volcano before we land. Probably a dormant volcano.
Well, probably, I'm sure. Hopefully.
Let's see. It's Mount Veve. Veve.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking at the mountain, and so we'll be flying back over the slot.
Oh, very cool. Yep.
Thanks, Allison.
Mount Veve is an extinct volcano on the island of Bangara in the Solomon Islands.
Bless you.
Yeah, it is extinct.
So I'm using Bing Maps, legitimately using Bing Maps, since it uses the same satellite imagery to locate the airstrip that we're going to be landing on, and it's going to be another one of those, it's just a space between trees.
Ooh, fun.
A lot of those here. So we've basically seen the last of pavement for a while.
Yeah.
Let's see. Chucho Murphy says, could you imagine 50 to 60 Wacos in formation? That would be nuts.
The island just north of Guadalcanal, the Americans gave a very interesting name. They just called it Florida Island.
That's funny.
Bravo Sound, or Iron Bottom Sound, is what they called it. But the list of wrecks is pretty extensive. One of the few Australian ships there, the HMAS Canberra, is sunk around there. But a lot of American ships, the Vincennes, the Quincy, the Astoria, but the Japanese lost some big ships like the battleship Hai and the Kirishima. I'm probably butchering Hai, but the Kirishima was of course the one that got a shotgun blast of 16-inch shells.
Oof.
Yeah.
It seems that we've been found by the Irish Air Corps.
Oh, they found you. You'll pay for your crimes against Ireland. Very cool stuff.
I mean, trying to fly something that can easily go 300 knots and flying at 130 or 120, yeah. And that's just a good-looking Irish Air Corps scheme, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's very cool. Got the extra fuel tanks underneath the wings.
Yep. And there's two versions of it. This one, and then a version that has the tip tanks instead of the pylon tanks.
Oh, okay.
And I just think that this one, the one with the pylon tanks, looks better. It's Italian. It's an Italian jet. It's by Air Machi, which I commonly mispronounce as Air Mariachi.
That's not even the same culture.
It's fun to say.
Yeah.
That's the jet we flew on Thursday's stream.
Oh, very nice.
Since there is yet to be any, since the F-15 is not currently out, otherwise I would have taken that, hands down.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people you know, especially during World War II, a lot of people dog on the Italians for their technology, but their planes and their ships were not lacking. They were excellent designs. It was mainly the Italian tanks and their ground troops that were not they weren't as fervent as some of the other militaries they were facing, let's say that.
Yeah, you never hear stories of the Italian tank brigades.
No, they were severely lacking for the entirety of the war.
Warhamster says that the Aermacchi MB339 flies like a wet mattress at 120 knots.
An apt analogy, I would say.
Yes.
Very nice.
It's much happier at over 200 knots.
Yes, I would imagine so. Could get some good air underneath that airframe. But yeah, the Italian Navy, the Riga Italia, did very well in the war until they didn't.
They did well until they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the Italian Air Force had some wonderful aircraft. They were just sort of
outmatched.
Yeah. You can't really do much against the combined forces of the American and British Air Force and Navy. One of the videos I plan on doing is talking about the French at the sort of midpoint of World War II, where they had capitulated to the Germans, but the French Navy was sort of spread out, and the British, seeing that, oh, hey, there's a lot of really good battleships. The French had an awesome Navy. There's some really good battleships that are sort of up for grabs right now, and kind of gave them an ultimatum saying, hey, we don't want these to become German battleships, so here are your options. They very famously trapped a large portion of the French Navy in North Africa, and kind of issued an ultimatum saying, hey, so here's what you can do. You can bring these to England and fight for the UK against the Germans. If you don't want to do that because that would go against the armistice, you can give these ships to us and then we'll repatriate you. You can sail them to the United States, which was neutral at the time, and they can repatriate them, or you can sink them and then, you know, we'll transfer you back home, or we can blow them up. And the French admiral at the time didn't care so much about the ultimatum, but was more angry that a captain issued it to him instead of another admiral.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so not really wanting to play ball and not really wanting to put his ego aside, he told the Vichy French government, the British have come to me and said, join them or be destroyed, which of course wasn't true at all.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so he waited until the very last minute, just livid that they would send a lowly captain to talk to an admiral. And so the British said, all right, suit yourself, and they removed the French fleet for them. Very violent.
The potential issue was... Now, this part of the island just looks like it's covered in mold.
It does.
I'm sorry, but it looks fuzzy.
Yeah. Oh, that's weird.
Like fuzzy in the worst way.
Is that a rendering issue, or is
I think it's just a lack of proper satellite image.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sure you see that a lot in Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska, northern Canada, Siberia.
Not a lot of satellites way up there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're all
not a lot of people.
Around the equator.
There's not a lot up there to take a picture of that isn't somehow military related.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can kind of see where the hard line is between where
it
kind of starts and ends.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait for the Solomon Islands update whenever that comes.
Well, and I'm looking forward to here in a couple weeks the big UK Ireland update.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
So we'll have to do some more flying up there, and we'll go to Donegal and Scotland. And
Probably more sought after than the Solomon Islands.
a little bit.
Yeah, they just, not a big call from the World War II nerds that want to see it, more from the people that are like, hey, I live in this country, could you please make it nice?
Right. Well, and that's one of the history is the reason we wanted to go through the Solomon Islands, and having you aboard it's huge and helps with that, and it's so we're very thankful you're spending your afternoon, evening, or for you kind of morning-ish,
Yeah.
so to speak.
I unfortunately work nights, so yeah, it's kind of morning for me.
But we appreciate the time you spend here on talking about history and stuff.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love history. I love naval history, and to a lesser extent, aviation history.
And they're all kind of interconnected in some way.
They are. Yeah. Their aviation history played a huge role in naval history. Not so much in the First World War, but definitely the interwar period and the Second World War.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I kind of wish I had you along for. I took a trip from Malta into Sicily, and then to the lower part of Italy up to Crotone,
Oh, very cool.
Italy. So the kind of toe area of the boot.
Yeah.
Italy. So that was a neat trip.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of really cool history. I mean, even more extensive history than just World War II,
Yeah.
Ancient history.
And then we did do a flight in, I forgot the name of that country.
There's a lot of them.
It was right by Malta. And I'm going to feel silly for not remembering. Tunisia.
Tunisia. Oh, okay, yeah.
So we flew around there looking for Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yep, because that's where they filmed A New Hope.
Oh, okay, yeah, in Tunisia. Very cool.
Dougal says he lived on board a converted World War II MTB for 4 years.
Yeah, very nice. That must have been fun.
Warhamster's really showing off the skills flying, a high-speed jet at very comparatively low speed.
Yeah. MTB is, of course, more motor torpedo boat.
Ah.
Pretty small.
Gear down.
Very small vehicle or vessel to live on. But, I mean, I've seen smaller boats that people have lived on, so.
I mean, given the right circumstances, you could probably manage to eke out a living on a Higgins boat.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a studio apartment.
Yeah. What? Yeah. It wouldn't be too comfortable, but you could. But, yeah, very cool.
We got our flying... Man, there's a big period of history right here. We got a flying boat, a jet, and a single-engine prop plane.
Yeah, that's a wide expanse right there. About 60 or 70 years.
Yeah. So I gotta get back to the chart. So we're almost to Alpha Golf Kilo Golf, which is Kaghau. I'm not gonna butcher it anymore. It's gonna be nice.
You need to look up the pronunciation for Kakadu.
I mean, even if you got to figure out what language it is, and who knows. So we're almost there as we see Papa Joe B off in the distance, and you can actually see the mountain, the volcano, our final stop, off in the distance. We're right about there. Let's see. Draco says, I see Warhamster as a citation, but in the stream it shows correctly. Is it because I don't have this on? It's between that and if you have generic models enabled for multiplayer, it will also show as just a generic Learjet or citation. But if you don't have it, it will also show up as a generic. whether multiplayer generic models are on or off.
So I believe it is just Cockatoo.
It sounds like a bird name. I'm sorry.
There is a bird that's indigenous to the area called the Solomon's cockatoo.
Well, there you go.
So that might be where the name originates from, is cockatoo.
That seems to make sense.
Yeah. Very cool. They look very much like umbrella cockatoos.
Umbrella cockatoos?
Yeah, it's an all-white cockatoo, and they got a big, wide crest on top of their head that looks umbrella-ish.
Dougal says the MTB was far from small for one person at 73 feet.
Okay, yeah. Oh, well, I use small as a general term. Yeah, 73 feet for one person is a good-sized boat. Yeah.
That's definitely an apartment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Very cool, yeah. I mean, the largest cutter I was stationed on was 282 feet, and then I was a coxswain for a 45-foot boat. But yeah, 73 feet, that's a good size.
Well, and I think the U.S. Navy considers the cutters a small boat.
Probably, yeah. In the Coast Guard, anything larger than 65 feet is considered a cutter. Anything smaller than 65 feet is a small boat.
So how do they define an icebreaker, for instance?
An icebreaker would be, that would be a cutter.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's just a specialized cutter.
Yeah. Yeah, anything that's over 65 feet is a cutter, whether it be a buoy tender, a law enforcement cutter, a national security cutter. It's just how big it is. So
Gotcha.
I believe the Mackinac is a ice-breaking buoy tender.
The current Mackinac or the old Mackinac?
Both, I think.
Now, what was the Alex Haley defined as?
Alex Haley was a medium endurance cutter, or a WMEC. And she started off as a Navy salvage ship, and then she was sold to the Coast Guard in '99 and converted into a medium endurance cutter. They took off the crane and stuff, they added a flight deck, they added a hangar.
Draco asked, where does the term cutter come from as it pertains to ships?
Cutters were sort of smaller warships back in the day, and the cutters were sort of basically close to shore, kind of interceptors pretty much. When they were first added to the U.S. fleet, the Revenue Cutter Service started in 1790, were used in the Treasury Department, and it was basically they would go out, find merchant ships, and they were pretty much legal privateers. So they would attack foreign merchant ships, take the goods on board, and then bring them back to the United States to add to the treasury. They were also there to protect a very young U.S. merchant ships, because the nation was very new. People like the Barbary pirates would see the United States flag and go, "Oh, even a real country, we can take that, and there's no problem." So they would protect merchant ships, and they were just fast interceptors that would protect and attack other warships. So,
and that was started by Andrew Jackson?
Alexander Hamilton.
Okay, the other guy.
Yep, Alexander Hamilton, considered the father of the Coast Guard, started the Revenue Cutter Service, which would later get rolled into and become the Coast Guard.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep, step back for real quick. I'll be right back.
All right. Gotta love the history, folks. It's always fun to learn new things. Doing it with friends and doing it while flying is just top notch. As the reminder to drink some water comes into the chat. a good reminder for myself included. As we're nearing our next waypoint and to turn towards our final destination of the evening. And then it's a short hop across the slot, over to Mount Phoebe, which is a now extinct volcano. Hope you're all enjoying the stream and all the information and the scenery. I'm having a blast. Jake says, very cool. My friend was in the Coast Guard and he saw a lot of action, either rescue ops or anti-drug ops. He saw more action than I did and I was a grunt. Those guys are for sure. The Coast Guard doesn't have a peacetime like the rest of the U.S. Armed Forces do. And I think Azimuth told me once that there's more active duty NYPD officers than Coast Guardsmen.
Yeah, that's correct. The Coast Guard covers all the coasts of the United States and then Puerto Rico and Guam. And they do it with around 50,000 active duty members. So the Coast Guard is not very big. And yeah, their mission, it's never over. So.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Draco's comment or not.
I did, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and then the Coast Guard falls under Department of Homeland Security, and then during time of war, fall under the Department of the Navy and all that.
Much like they did during the war with Coasties helming a lot of the small boats like Higgins and so on.
That's true. Yeah, there were other, they manned Liberty ships and all that, and they manned a bunch of destroyers and other ships were manned by the Coast Guard because the Navy just couldn't get enough crews to, man the ships that they were on. So there were cutters that were doing patrols, and then there were destroyers that were manned by Coast Guard. And then in the Pacific campaigns, the Coast Guard was invaluable because while the Navy operated ships and all that, the Coast Guard was very used to operating near to shore and in surf conditions. So they used that sort of expertise for them to man landing craft operating very close to shore.
Yeah, and much like Draco says that the Coast Guard doesn't get a lot of credit, and their training is some of the most difficult. That's one of the reasons why I like bringing it up, is just because you know that a lot of the history because it was what you were trained with. But it's very true that the Coast Guard is very, very much underrated when it comes to U.S. Armed Forces, because you always hear about SEALs and Delta and this and that, but the Coast Guard's got some pretty stout stuff.
Oh, yeah, a lot of good stuff. And they were, in many parts, they were sort of the subject matter experts during World War II. Their accolades cannot go unspoken for.
I mean, you had a guy beating the door on a sub as it was going under.
Which is very reminiscent. The Coast Guard cutter Campbell caught a German U-boat above water off the shore of, I believe, Cape Hatteras, and they immediately engaged it. They fired at the conning tower with 5-inch guns. They rammed the ship, the U-boat, and pretty much did everything they could until finally the crew on the German U-boat surrendered to the Campbell, and then Campbell was promptly towed back into port due to damage sustained from ramming.
Jeez.
But they were vehement, and they were relentless in trying to get this U-boat
No
to surrender.
kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know
Very
that.
cool story. Oh yeah, very cool story.
Dogged and relentless.
Yes, absolutely. The Coast Guard was credited with capturing an entire fort of Germans shortly after D-Day. A cutter captain found kind of a secluded fort and only had his cutter available to attack it. But it was vital to bring an end to it. But the Navy wouldn't be there for a couple days before to back him up. So he, in a small attachment, went to the fort, pretty much knocked on the front door and said, "Hey, we're here to negotiate your surrender. We have an entire Navy force ready to attack your position, but none of that's not really necessary. If you just surrender, we'll promise you'll be treated fairly." And the German commander was very appreciative. He said, "Oh, yeah, of course. We appreciate that. We don't think the bloodshed's necessary." Surrendered to the Coast Guard and promptly found out that it was maybe about 40 guys, and that the Navy would be there shortly.
That's the best bluff ever.
Yes.
It was mostly true.
Yeah, it was mostly true. They weren't entirely lying. They were just,
Mostly.
bending a few truths.
Yeah. It was. What does Spock say? He says, "I didn't lie. I exaggerated."
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes. Very cool.
See, and that's the fun little nuggets of history. It's just great.
Yes. Yeah.
As Dougal says, his MOB did some training with the Coast Guard.
Oh yeah. Very cool. Yeah. The Navy SEALs would always do training up in Kodiak, Alaska. I think they did their cold weather training. So we did train with the SEALs occasionally, which was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got to wave at Russians from time to time.
Yes, which had mixed results. We were underway along the economic exclusionary zone, the EEZ, between the United States and Russia, and there's always a line of Russian fishing ships that go up and down the EEZ, kind of waiting for us to leave so they can illegally fish in our waters. And we were traveling kind of parallel to another fishing ship, maybe within I'd say 300 yards. And I walked out onto the bridge wing with a pair of binoculars, and I look and I see another Russian sailor walk out onto the bridge wing of his ship with a pair of binoculars. And I see him, and I get excited. I wave at him, and I'm like, "Hello, hey!" And I see him raise his hand, and I go to the chief. I was like, "Chief, I just waved at a Russian," and he waved back. And he's like, "Very good, McLean." And then the lookout, who has a better set of binoculars, called down from the bridge, the fly bridge, and said, "Hey, do you see that Russian guy flip us off?" I was very disappointed.
Went from very excited to very sad.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh."
As we make our turn to the final leg of the evening, Warhamster says the Rescue at Sea Agency in the UK and Ireland is the RNLI, the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. It's a 95% volunteer service. People carry bleepers and answer the call 24 hours a day. Nice.
Nice. Yeah, they have a lot of, they have stuff like that in the U.S. and all that, for things where, the Coast Guard can't get there, or in very secluded areas. There's also, commercial salvage like Towboat US and all that.
By the way, there's our landing strip on that little piece of land.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's tiny.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the Coast Guard Auxiliary, there's the Civil Air Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that there's, you know, some sort of similar thing for the Navy. Although I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily know that there would be, because doing it locally, it'd fall under the jurisdiction of the Coast Guard anyway.
Yeah.
And not a lot of margin for error at that little island for landing.
No.
I'm glad I decided to make that a waypoint and not a landing point. So I'm making the flight plan, I'm going, well, how do I want to split this up to have three, you know, 3 landings and 3 takeoffs. So basically 3 legs. And I'm looking at that one, it's like, well, I could do this, like, yeah, we'll just make it an overfly, and I'm glad I did. Or hamster, somebody call me an ambulance and maybe a coroner. We'll call the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Kingsman's back, but just to watch. Welcome. Yeah, no, you're safe, War Hamster. We're flying over. We're not landing there. Our next landing is the final landing at the base of the volcano. Although, looking at the next one, we may want to get the crash crews out. Or at least keep the boats out and ready.
I guess I'll plug myself. If you're a fan of my ramblings and all that, and you find me interesting, I got a YouTube channel that I just started called Maritime Horrors, and it's all about famous nautical disasters and accidents at sea and all that. So if you're interested in all that, go ahead and check it out. Watch my newest video on the SS Princess Sophia, and give it a subscribe if you're interested.
Let's see. Kingston said had to go out and do something. Always the right time. Always happens that way. It's Murphy's Law. But yeah, no, your series it's looking really exciting, and I get to learn a thing or two.
Oh yeah.
And I guess it's a hipster thing to say. It's like, I thought your stories were cool before your channel started.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. Today was SS Princess Sophia, and then next week should be the Coast Guard cutter Blackthorn, which is an incident that happened in 1980. So I try to cover a full range of history. The earliest one I have is back in 1630, and then I have, I think the most recent one I have is actually 2015.
And I have posted the video on the Princess Sophia in the Two-Tone Murphy NCO Mess channel.
Oh, very nice.
So, sweet. For the masses to see.
Yeah. I'll find it. He's got a big Discord.
It's exploded in popularity.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's somewhere.
I think should be on it.
Yeah, I am.
You might only have access to the Propeller Club, though.
Yeah, probably.
That's okay.
I had a message on Discord.
Let's see. Kingsman is just looking at the YouTube website will give you an ad. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Definitely check it out. I'm not. It's nice because it's something I enjoy, and whether it's successful or not, I don't really care. Because I like making the videos.
See, and that's the way to get started doing it. Do something you enjoy, and good stuff will happen, and worst case is you're doing something you enjoy.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna try to get a video out once a week. It's really nice because I figured out how to record audio to my iPad just at work, so I can sit at work and just record these. So.
Which, luckily for you, working at nights and in your vocation, you're able to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So the volcano's getting ever bigger as we travel over the slot. What's the YouTube? It is Maritime Horrors.
Yeah.
If you're on YouTube, there should be a link in the description directly to his channel.
Oh yeah, there you go. Very cool. Yeah, I actually brought it up with my boss. My boss was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, you'll have to send me the link." So even he's cool with me.
Very nice. I mean, as long as it doesn't interfere with your regular work. And even your intro video is interesting. See, you're up to 3 comments, 28 views, and 9 likes. That's fantastic, dude. Warhamster, I really must insist that you watch the full Das Boot series. Is it available on Amazon, Netflix, or some streaming platform? Because I'd probably check it out. I'll have to look it up. But we're definitely going to have to use heading mode to fly around the island. Sounds good, Kingsman. That's awesome. He did a fantastic job.
Thank goodness I've been muted.
I was starting to wonder. I was about to send you a message. It's like, is your mic muted?
I am so sorry. I was like, I swear he can't hear me.
I'm just talking over you, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's Maritime Horrors. Check it out. Like I said, I got stuff all the way from way back in the 1630s up to the most recent video is going to take place in 2015. So lots of good stuff. Thank you, Kingsman. Very knowledgeable guy when he knows how to turn on his microphone. But yeah, no, like I was saying, this time of year it's very slow at work. The ice is moving in, so not a lot to do. So plenty of time to work on stuff.
Cruising boats.
Yeah. Yeah, we already got a good layer of ice building up here. I don't know if you got icing up where you're at. I'm sure you did.
I mean, considering I don't go near the water near as much, I couldn't tell you, but...
Fair. Yeah. But yeah.
Good old Lake Erie.
Yeah. Lake Erie usually freezes pretty quickly.
It's shallow, the shallowest of the Great Lakes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember my first year out in Toledo and all that, and the first freeze, we were able to walk all the way out to the Toledo Harbor Light, and that's 7 nautical miles from shore.
Kingsman was brought up around boats.
Very nice. Very nice. I actually wasn't, believe it or not. For the first 20 years of my life, I lived up in the mountains, away from the water and everything. It was almost like a spur of the moment decision to join the Coast Guard.
I think on the on our Thursday flight from Miramar to Star Wars Canyon, we flew over Big Bear.
Oh yeah, I used to work up in Big Bear. I was a ski instructor up there.
Red Dragon, I remember when Das Boot was first screened on UK TV. If I recall correctly, it was shown in German with English subtitles. I learned my full range of German swear words then.
Nice.
Kingsman misses those. Kingsman used to go fishing in the Irish Sea with his uncle and granddad, and he misses those days. I can see why. Allison really enjoyed the stream thus far. And Draco wants to know if you play World of Warships.
I definitely do, yeah. Once I get to streaming more, I love World of Warships. I play the heck out of it. So I'll probably be playing that and then just talking about naval history. Yeah, that's one of my favorites is World of Warships.
There's not a lot of boat games.
No, it's like if you want like World War II ship games, it's like War Thunder and World of Warships.
Keen Lafford asks if hello, am I late? Nope, you arrived exactly when you needed to. Waylon says there's a fully dubbed version of Das Boot available, spoken by the actual actors, who are mostly fluent in English anyway. That's cool.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, Kean Lafford is never late, nor is he early. He arrives exactly when he needs to.
Let's see. Noel Nightall, entertaining evening. The flying almost faded into the background, listening to the tales of Daring Do. Thanks, Colonel Fork and Azimuth. Glad you enjoyed, Noel. You have a restful evening, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, I've been playing World of Warships since beta as well. I love that game. I was a fan of World of Tanks, and then it just was natural when they came out with World of Warships. I had to try it.
Keen says there's only 127 days until the Eurovision. Nice.
It's the Eurovision.
It is a music contest for Europe.
Oh, very cool.
So we're going to switch to heading mode as we near the, before we go too drastically off course.
Oh, okay, so you set your GPS to heads up instead of north up? Very cool.
Because if you look at the purple arrow is the GPS track.
Right.
Whereas if this little turquoise bug, if I turn this knob, that changes the heading that the GPS or that the autopilot will follow.
Oh, okay, cool.
Otherwise, if it's in nav mode, it'll follow the GPS route.
Very cool. All right.
So I just select the heading I want, and it'll go that way. Which is handy when your flight path includes a big rock.
Yeah, I do see that there.
Kingsman asks, is it true the U.S. city of Sanger in California?
There is a Sanger, California.
I've never heard of that. Keen wants to know what aircraft I'm flying. I'm flying the Carenado Cessna 182T Skylane, which is a lovely airplane. And I wanted to do the high wings, given the fact that we're going to be looking at the scenery a lot.
Yeah, for Sanger's like the middle of it's like Central California, a little podunk town near Fresno. There's not much there.
I was when we were flying from the Star Wars Canyon to San Francisco and the carrier that's out there, we spotted Mordor, and The Eye of Sauron.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm guessing one of the graphical good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
gotcha.
I saw that and that was my first thought.
Yeah. That's funny.
Kingsman said it's its surname.
Oh, very nice. Yes, there is a Sanger, California.
The Christmas tree state, they say.
Christmas tree stand? Never heard that. Okay. No, I grew up and I was born in California.
California.
I won't say my name on the stream, but yeah, there's a city with my surname in Virginia.
There's a lot of places that are relevant to my surname.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. it's pretty common, or at least the word is.
Whether it's a proper noun or otherwise, it's...
Yeah.
So, it looks like the top of the mountain is obscured by the clouds, which just makes it look cooler.
Very cool. Yeah. Thankfully, an extinct volcano, as we've learned.
No need to worry about lava.
Yeah. Have they programmed eruptions into the game?
Not yet. They are working on the particle effects, which is going to help out things like water landings. They're going to have it so where when your engine starts, it's actually, at high power, a prop engine would blow sand or dirt or grass.
Yeah.
So they're doing a lot of back end work still, and it's going to be fantastic. Warhamster says, I Google my name and organization every now and then and spend a day panicking.
Nice. Nice. What is it called? Hold on, I gotta look for it.
Warhamster posted a picture. You got a 5-inch or something shell, and just chilling in his apartment.
Oh, very nice.
I think it's inflatable, but
The Kopp Etchels effect. Have you heard of that?
it doesn't sound familiar.
So the Kopp Etchels effect, it was found pretty common in the first Gulf War, and it's when rotary wing aircraft are flying at night in a sort of a sandy desert area, like a sandstorm. It's glowing at the tip of the rotor blades, which is caused by sand sparking off the rotor blades.
Oh, that makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you get a chance, look that up. It looks super cool.
Yeah, that makes sense because the blades on helicopters and other rotorcraft they generate a lot of static electricity.
Yeah.
And especially in dry, arid environments like a desert. Warhamster says 75-pounder World War II British tank shell.
You might be a little bit wrong on that. 75-pounder would be massive. We're talking like, I don't know, like a 25-inch shell. It's something that doesn't exist. Might be a 17-pounder or a 76 millimeter. Yeah.
Draco says eventually MSFS will have this game up to 2 terabytes in size. God forbid you ever have to reinstall it. Yeah, for sure. Keen says online learning starts tomorrow. Sorry I wasn't here for a long, safe flight. No worries, Keen. You get some sleep and do some good learning tomorrow.
Go and get it. Yeah.
Warham's just going to load it and send it your way.
Okay. Yeah, it might be a 75 millimeter. 75-pounder would be.
That's a big shell.
Stop. Yeah, railway gun size. That would be massive. A 75-pound projectile.
Do they have Gustav in World of Tanks?
They do not, unfortunately. I don't think, at least, not without mods. It would be kind of hard because you can only go, 2
Forward and
directions.
back.
Yeah. Those were actually very interesting how they did that. Of course, you had vertical and or you had vertical traverse. You didn't have horizontal traverse. So what the Germans would do was make a sort of like half-moon shaped track, and that's how you would get your horizontal traverse. Is you would pull it forward and back on this half-moon shaped track, and that's how you got your left to right traverse.
Huh.
Yeah, very interesting. Historically, they used one of those guns during the siege of Sevastopol in southern Ukraine, I think, and they set up one of those tracks and just shelled the city with one of those railway guns. Really devastating.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Warhamster says, "Yep, 17-pounder. Don't know where I got 75."
Well, it's 17-pounder comes out to be about 75, 76 millimeters. So that's where you probably got the mix-up. But yeah, that's very cool. The 17-pounder, of course, was used in the Sherman Firefly, which is the upgunned version of the M4 Sherman that the British used, and was one of the few, at least early on, few guns that could effectively punch through the armor of like Panthers or not so much Tigers, but definitely the side armor of Tigers and the frontal glacius if they were close enough.
And we're just hitting all the buttons: birds, boats, tanks.
Yeah, the things that I actually care about. Yeah.
That's why we have you on the stream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do know, you know, a bit about the tank technology and the tank armor and all that.
Armor theory.
Yeah, and a very small bit about small arms, World War II small arms.
There's the precipice of the volcano.
Very cool. You can see the caldera right over there, the rim there. Speaking of World War II small arms, they're finally done working on my M1 carbine, so I'm going to go pick that up Tuesday.
Very nice.
Yeah. Very excited. God, that thing's been in the shop for at least a month.
Dougal says, "No, don't say the word buttons or Murph can hear." Huh.
How is Murph? He's probably in VR because I can't hear him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Murph's in VR. It's hard to chat when you're in VR and you can't see your keyboard.
Oh yeah, makes sense. Christmas tree stand.
Draco says, went to a garage sale in the summer and found a complete 8-volume of the History Channel's Vessels of War, $1.
Ooh,
Nice.
Wow.
That's a nice
Yeah,
find.
That's a hell of a steal.
Murph is in bed sleeping, but he just woke up screaming. Probably I was talking about him and buttons and gave him a nightmare.
Yeah. I cannot find where the Christmas tree state comes from, but yeah, I'll take your word for it. I have never heard that, actually. I mean, we had a lot of pine trees where I grew up, so I can see that, I guess.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
It's not just movie stars in L.A.
Yeah. Yeah, people always ask me if I knew how to surf, and I'm like, I know how to snowboard.
Tarso says, are we ending at AGKU or crossing over the island to where AGGN is? I believe we're ending at AGKU. Technical's got a scoot. Early start tomorrow. Great stream and good info too. Glad you enjoyed it, Technical. Glad you could fly along, and we'll catch you next time. For sure.
Thanks for coming along. Warhamster wants you to go to full power and go over the volcano.
Well, who would I to be to not, do that? Let's see. So, what are the hardware goodies you ordered that might take the? It's I got a HOTAS set up. So, Ian may not know HOTAS, hands-on throttle and stick. It's an acronym, and we all love acronym.
Yes, absolutely. You can't be a veteran of the military and not have a billion acronyms sitting in your head.
Mm-hmm. And find new ones throughout your life.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it came 2 days late, and I've been tweaking with it between yesterday evening and this morning. And so this week I will start practicing for the Simwings flight. Yeah, I've got one down. It's the X-55 Rhino, which Azimuth, I'll send you a picture of.
Okay. Our beautiful view might be obfuscated by some clouds.
Eh.
Oh, dang, that looks cool. Is that a big chunky thing on the left?
That's the throttle. The stick over on the right's the stick. So we're in the, what'd you call it?
The caldera?
Yeah, that.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, that's cool. Very nice, wow. Obviously,
Very
been
dormant.
extinct oh yeah, very much so. Been extinct for quite some time, but all of that real nutrient-rich soil makes it very fertile.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
I think that's a lot of misconceptions about volcanic soil. Is I think it's just dead, and it's actually very fertile soil.
Oh yeah, yeah. Very cool. Well, you caved to peer pressure, but it was worth it.
Oh yeah, I mean it was war hamster, so I usually give them the benefit of it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Let's see.
It's like a scene from Jurassic Park. Yeah, I can see that.
Dun, 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 dun.
And copyright strike.
You do it bad enough, and it's kind of hard to.
That's true. The algorithm can't pick it up.
And
go,
I'm not very good.
Yeah.
It's like, is it really a copyright?
Yeah. Good stuff.
It's very picturesque.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, and we picked the right exit too. Look at that.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty.
And now we got to find the airport.
It's somewhere.
Well, everything's somewhere.
Yep. Somewhere in those little tiny trees.
I think it's over that way near where Alley Cats is.
Okay.
I missed flying this plane.
It's a fun little plane, yeah. I like it.
It's had some technical issues and shortcomings performance-wise and whatnot, but they finally sorted it all out, and it's a really nice plane to fly. It has some nice speed to it. It looks good. It's more a beach than an airport.
That bodes poorly.
Well, I guess it kind of goes in line with, we started off at an asphalt runway. The next one was kind of mostly grass with some sand mixed in. The second one, or the next landing, was definitely somebody's backyard. And so this one being the beach, it just kind of rounds it all out.
Oh boy. I guess you can kind of make it out over there. Yeah, Henderson, of course, being used by the U.S. military, they made sure it was very nice.
Oh yeah, well the Seabees, the Seabees are the Seabees, and they made a non-hospitable landscape hospitable for airplanes.
Yeah.
Warhamster's gonna burn some fuel off. Draco says if you roll too long, you'll end up in the ocean. Oh, Allison says it's grass with trees and houses alongside.
Very nice. This might be some rich fellow's eccentric summer home, maybe.
Or, maybe some college students.
Yeah. I wish.
They got a grant.
It's funny, the mountains off in the distance almost look like they have snow on the top.
They might.
I don't believe so. not in the Pacific, in the mid-Pacific.
Hey, stranger things have happened. So we're looking for the wee little airport. Which is right where Allie is. But we need to lose some altitude.
You don't want to overshoot this thing.
No. So, got the power back, and we're at 500 foot a minute. I'm gonna put a notch of flaps down and pitch down a bit. When will X-Plane be going live? I don't know. I've never owned X-Plane. Let's see, best approach over the sea, runway 31 is very tricky. Okay. Well, I'll get on a downwind. For sure. So I see Papa Joe B is down. Somewhat appropriate music playing for a challenging landing. I think it's appropriate that I'm eating some dried mangoes.
Ooh, nice.
I really like dried mango. Yeah, this is also in somebody's back garden. Just looking at it from here. As Dougal's inbound. And I'm having a case of I can't tell if the schmutz is on my monitor or if it's on the window of the airplane. Boy, I know how to pick them, don't I? Holy cow. Look at that. Look at that strip, Azimuth.
Yeah, that's pretty small. Jeez. Yeah, you sure know how to pick them.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be interesting. I hope Warhamster's ejection seat works.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do. Let's see. Good night, Kingsman. You have a good night, good rest, and we will catch you the next time. Hope you stay well. Draco says, I've seen chicken strips bigger than that. I have too.
An apt analogy. Like that.
Two things I like, flying and chicken strips.
Yeah.
We'll add in our next notch. Oh, flaps. I have to keep on top of the power, but we don't, you know, sink into the ocean.
Yeah.
With the cow flaps. Man, I can't wait to be able to get VR. This would be a lot easier.
Yeah, VR would be a fun experience. I can't wait till you can get that.
Last I looked, the Oculus Rift S, which was out last year, is going for $300, which is pretty good for a VR set.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's what Murph uses. Papa Joe, no logs. All the logs are upright. They haven't converted to logs. They're still trees. And they're holding up the houses. So here we are inbound. Definitely an interesting approach.
Yeah. There's definitely houses and stuff right next to them. Wow.
A little bit of a bounce, but not too bad. Oh.
Very short runway.
I would not want to do this in the MB339.
No. I wouldn't want to do that in the Goose either.
Well, if you're in the Goose, you might as well just,
Yeah, just
land on the water. So I'll park here next to Papa Joe B. Nice lineup going. So, we're going to get in the old drone camera. As we can already hear Warhamster. I think Warhamster's going to be the next one in, so get your hand ready on the ejection seat, my friend. You might need it. Because if it's not the ocean, there's a hill. So we'll check it out, have the view right over the shore. Just barely got onto the grass, Warhamster. There's Draco in a 172. Nicely done. Red Dragon's in. I like hearing the waves. That's kind of nice. Warhamster was short. That doesn't count. Should be dead. Well, Warhamster, you can always take off and give it another go. I egged him on, Azimuth.
Good. There you go.
Peer pressure for peer pressure.
Use that peer pressure, yeah.
Here comes Tarso, followed closely by Bad Dog. I mean, this would actually be a nice place to live if it weren't for typhoons and stuff.
Oh yeah. Not a lot of infrastructure though.
No. Rad Pilot Randy's in the Baron. Yeah, that'd be the downside. Is it'd be the downside is also the upside. Is just like in the middle of nowhere. As Warhamster goes for a takeoff, it just makes it up. See, Draco, from my view behind him, it showed him in the water. It was kind of in the water for me as well. Just kind of real close to the line. It's actually pretty scenic just looking at it like this. Use Azimuth with converting from a Prime Gaming sub to a Tier 1 sub. Many thanks, my dude.
Yeah, no problem, man. I enjoyed it.
And we enjoy having you along.
Hey, glad to hear it. Glad doing part wisdom and all that when I can, as limited as my wisdom is.
There's Wayland going right for the building. Goes, no building can phase Wayland in the Mooney.
It's all right. They didn't want planes in their living room. They shouldn't have built their house there.
Well, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to think about those things. Here's
exactly.
Here's Warhamster again with take 2. Nicely done. Probably burning up the brates and digging into the ground a little bit.
Oh, probably. Gosh, what was it?
He's still rolling. He's still rolling.
Watching videos of
He made it.
What is it? Jets destroying tarmacs with their jet blast because they're
Not rated for it.
Yeah.
Well, awesome.
Very cool.
As we Warhamster hit some of the parked planes.
That's
Sorry. Well,
that'll bump it up.
thanks all for joining me and including Azimuth coming along for the flight, dropping the history, dropping the knowledge. Thanks all for coming along and sharing the experience. It's been a great evening, Azimuth. Thanks for coming along. I do appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.
And we will definitely do this more in the future. So in the meantime, until the next time, be good to each other. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. We good to go?